Howdy, SOE, Permapastures, and LFTN land. It is time for our Wednesday Live, and we have Billy Bond, John Willis, and I'm Nicole Sauce on today to talk about whatever we want to talk about. Guys, what do you want to talk about today?
I want to talk about John's shirt.
John, tell us about your shirt.
So it's a play on G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. On the back, it says extreme violence is the other half.
You sold out of those already, of course?
No, we've been running bigger runs because what happens is when our text goes out, we do sell out Monday night, the first night. But then when we put up a video on Friday, usually it has that shirt in there and guys are like, it's sold out. So we've been doing a little bigger runs on some of these.
Cool.
Yeah, well, speaking of T-shirts, the one Nicole has on, I wore it to town the other day. I don't know if you saw that live. It was an impromptu live that I did on Sunday talking about my run-in at Lowe's. And I was wearing that shirt that Nicole has on right now. You would not believe the ugly looks I got. Maybe, come to think about it, I wonder with the benefit of hindsight, if what happened there at Lowe's wasn't a result of wearing that shirt.
I don't think so, man. I think it's that you're just in a crazy place. Like North Carolina is like California, dude. If you came here, because I listened to every bit of that. Amanda and I were heading somewhere, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, when I walk into Lowe's here, and the manager of Lowe's knows I came in the building and comes and finds us and is like, dude, I love all your videos. I train at TAC Response. Like, it's a complete different world. It just doesn't. And even like going to Home Depot, all of the batteries for DeWalt and everything are locked up. So you got to find a person. She's got to open. It's like a weapons cage, dude. She's got to open the cage. And then there's a bar that goes through all of the packaging. So she has to take all this shit out because people are stealing it, right? And I'm like, well, what is all this for? She goes, because people are coming in and stealing. I go, but you're not locking up the tools. She goes, no, they steal them all the time. And we can't pursue them or anything. So all it does is take the paying customer, and it literally takes 15 minutes to get anything. But I'm like, hey, every time we're talking in checkout, I'm like, hey, tell me one of your crazy stories. And they kind of light up, man. They are very similar. They think a lot like we do. And I believe that's because they are there working. I think a lot of the people that were apt, the 4 boosters and all that shit, I think that's the people that took a lot of the stimulus money and didn't work and didn't go back to work. I think at this point, and maybe not where you're at, but here, if you're working, you're kind of like one of our people.
Yeah.
What a concept.
So Michael wants to know what my T-shirt says. It's a picture of a family and their animals, and it says, you are the carbon they are trying to eliminate or get rid of. Reduce.
Well, I wondered if it wasn't, it was a combination of a bunch of things, but I think you're right, John. I mean, man, Asheville's become, it used to be a really cool bohemian kind of vibe town.
Yeah.
And now you got bums walking through that would go through your barbecue grill for bones. We saw a dude crab walking, me and Michelle, across from where kids were playing at a Chick-fil-A, crab walking like you do when a kid with his junk sticking out, peeing as he's crab walking. You can't make this up, man. So I wonder, maybe you're right there, man. It can't be. You're right, man. When I'm in Tennessee, when I'm out there with you guys, and I hope we talk about what you got coming up pretty soon. You're right, man. There's no weird stuff like that. There's no weird stuff up here in the mountains where I'm at. Maybe some old boy, who's out there hunting ginseng on your property. Okay, if that's the worst I got to deal with, fine, man. But some clown that looks like Daryl Hall over here, I don't know. I wonder if it was maybe I didn't realize I should have been. I don't know. I won't go there. But honestly, Nicole, John, I love the shirts. I can't wait to get the one John's wearing now because that really ought to light up some weirdos.
These mailed out. They're on the way to you guys. You know what the solution to your problem is, Billy? It's just to relocate to Tennessee.
Hey, if it was up to William, truthfully, we'd be on the first thing smoking tomorrow. We love it here in the mountains. Low humidity. Love the environment in this spot. But honestly, the vibe you got going out there, that's why I pretty much made it known. We booked ourselves pretty much for every homesteading event that we've got invited to this year. But honestly, I think we're going to exclusively, barring some miracle, man, honestly, the best event we've been to is the one y'all put on, both of y'all put on out there at SOE, Self-Reliance Festival. And I think we pretty well decided that if it's not a really close event, the only event I think we're really going to go to is out there, because we just love the vibe so much. These other events are cool in their own way, but my tribe is right there in Tennessee with y'all, man. And I can't wait to go to the next one.
What do you think the difference, because I haven't been to a lot of the others, right? What do you think what's the set apart? What are we doing different?
Well, number one, you have a younger crowd and you have an older crowd. You have a mix of everybody of all ages. And you also have a liberty-minded crowd. You have a crowd where anybody, no matter where you're coming from, your sexual orientation, your whatever, not only are you going to be accepted, but also at the same time, just about everybody out there is armed. So nobody's tripping. And usually, like I was telling Jack Spirko, when you get that many alphas in one place, in the past, I've always had to be kind of on the lookout, but that's not the case there, man. It's like we all kind of do our little feeling out, you know, whether it was the first time meeting each other or meeting Jack or meeting some of the other speakers there. But also you have this really cool component with the women. You got Nicole, who's, you know, a strong, wonderful person herself. And there's a lot of other people like her that attract themselves to this place. And the vibe you have there, not only is it festive, you feel like you're learning something. You really do. You feel like, whether it was in the tent or one of the other stages, I feel like that every time I go to any event that's going on there, I love the fact that I'm learning something I didn't already know. And there's really, the best part of all of it is having cool access with people I never thought I'd get to meet. Like, I met Nicole before that event at another event. I'm meeting Dr. Ken Berry, meeting Jack Spirko, somebody I've been listening to and looking up to for a long time. I'm meeting all these people that are highly accessible, and none of them, you two included, nobody feels like they're a rock star in that place. And I love it. There's no hero worship. You got Bear Independent that rolled up in there the last time. I was like, I didn't know who he was. I'm like, who's this dude? I see people flocking to him, and I've seen him being very affable. You know, in the end, me and him exchange phone numbers, dude. I mean, I'm getting access to people that in a lot of these other super big events, you just don't get access to, or they feel like they're so, man, how do I say this? They got their own little booth and you got to access them there. Well, you know, I see Jack Spirko shaking hands with people on the way after he just got finished touching his junk in the porta potty. So
that's where we're going to have a signing event for him.
Hey, somebody's making a hand washing sink for this next one.
I think you said you got to watch out when there's a bunch of alphas. And I think that an armed society is a polite society. And it's just different. I mean, and it kind of weeds out too, like, you can have your stories, but when you're around dudes who have really done that, you kind of suppress the stories. Like, save that for, you know, wherever you are. And there's not a lot of that there. I think a big part too is that when you meet people, you walk away as friends, not just some dude I met at an event, right? You get a lot of one-on-one time, and you get a lot of actual conversation where you're having a real dialogue, right? So I didn't just meet Jack. I am friends with Jack. I don't just know Billy. Like, Bill, that's my boy. Like, we're friends, right? I just hung out with William this weekend. He was here, and we went over and hung out with him for hours just because he was in town. And that's
cool. Did he buy property while he was there for Permapastures?
I didn't give him the credit card. Hey, we are kind of looking for Western Command out there, thinking about selling my land in Texas ultimately. And I mean, we're seriously thinking about it, man. The vibe there, you know, I love the mountains and everything, but it wouldn't break my heart to have a Western Command, or maybe even I wouldn't be entirely opposed, depending on who was in on it, of buying a property where maybe several of us had a piece. But honestly, man, the vibe y'all got going out there, I'm like, good night. I mean, I love where I live, don't get me wrong, but the vibe out there, the freedom component, the accessibility of everybody, and then all the people that show up, man, you're realizing, man, you got friends all throughout this country, when all of us by and large feel isolated when we do this work. At least I do. Yeah. And I think a number of others. And then we go to a gathering like that where I expected this much. I kid you not, at that first one, and I got off the screen that much. And that's what I love about what's going on at that event out there, y'all. It's a fantastic event. And honestly, I'm to the point now because we got so much going on here. And if we do decide to buy land out there, I'm going to have even more going on. So I think, honestly, because you do events regularly, I think we're all thinking about, because in every direction imaginable, everybody's trying to get us to advertise things for us or get us to go to their events. And I'm really thinking about, we're getting real close to deciding that, hey, you know what? This is the only event we're going to do, man. If you want to hang out with us, you're going to have to go out to SOE. It's self-reliance, because it's honestly the event where I've never felt more at home with my tribe, and everybody gets along. Everybody gets along great. And I understand that this one, I think you're thinking about adding some entertainment components to this, or you're adding more to it.
We're always looking for how can we make it a little bit better each time, because we started with, John's compound, and we've put some infrastructure in. We've improved things with, that event circus tent thing really made a difference last time. Originally we had the pole barn in the garage, and then it was like, well, you can't fit 1,000 people in the pole barn in the garage, so we're gonna have to do something. So last time there were a number of musicians around at the event, so we're going to have music on Saturday night from the stage. It's 3 very different kinds of music that are going to happen, and that's just going to be another thing going on after hours that you can do. More people understand from the vendor side that, hey, there are people here who want to buy food, so maybe I'll sell food. So there are a couple of interesting things coming in on the food vendor side, and it's not just a prepper jam session or a homesteading jam session. It's kind of those two things intermingled, people showing you how to do stuff in person, hands-on. But also it's more like, to me, it starts feeling like a family reunion, where I'm seeing people who have been to every single one of them now, who I met at John's when he just was throwing a party that first time. So I've now known these people for, our first one was a year ago. Of this event, and I see them time after time after time, and I'm seeing them develop and change and get more community around them, and that part's awesome. And I do want to point something out in the comments. Michael Tillman said, any tips on getting a festival or event started in Louisiana, and then was immediately answered by somebody in the comments, Kathleen Dell, saying, I'm in Southeast Louisiana. You two need to talk about how to start a festival, because the other thing about Self-Reliance Festival is it's not going on the road. But if you tell me you're doing something similar to Self-Reliance Festival, I may even put together like a little ebook about it, just because I've already done a webinar on how to do events, right? I want to empower people to get this kind of vibe going everywhere. So if you're doing one in Louisiana, I don't feel like, ooh, that's competition. I feel like, hey guys, there is one in Louisiana you can go to now too. I might even travel down and speak places, right? It's really cool to see these communities coming together and making real relationships, real progress, and improving personal resilience, which is what we need if shit goes south, and shit might go south.
So shit hit the fan fitness. I would like to talk to you. I think that's a pretty cool thing you have going. I'm not sure what it is, but you could use that and turn that into a business if it's not already. Amanda, thank you for becoming a member. Billy, I'm going to ask this question to go somewhere else. And the question is Michelle coming out in October?
We're working on it. It's trying to find a farm sitter is the real problem. So
I asked that to say this. If you were in Tennessee, you would have a farm sitter. No, I
need a farm sitter, everybody. Speaking of which, just put that out there.
Because they're here, man. My friend Rob Bailey said something that really, really stuck out, right? He lives in Pennsylvania, had multiple businesses, $1 million warehouse, 1 million square foot warehouse, multiple gyms. And he vacationed to Whitefish, Montana. They were in like the Caribbean. They went all over the place over the years since I've known him. And he went to Whitefish, and when he got back, he said, hey, we're moving to Montana. And in 30 days, He sold stuff, shut down businesses, and took 30 moving trucks to Montana, right? And what he said was, Whitefish, Montana was the only place we ever vacationed where we weren't in a hurry to get home. And when we got home, we wanted to go back. And that has really stuck with me. I don't know where that is for me, probably because I don't travel. But for me, that's right here. Like somebody asked, hey, would you, if it wasn't for James, if you didn't know James Yeager, would you have moved to Camden? The answer is no. I'd probably still be stuck in California telling everybody I need to get out of California.
Yeah, SHTF Fitness is speaking at Self-Reliance Festival, John.
Cool.
And he's been on my podcast once, but it's also a business. I've actually been thinking of scheduling an appointment with him to work on some low back issues. Awesome. So, but his whole thing is you need to be able to run a mile or two. You need to be able to, he has like a whole set of fitness things you should work up to if you want to be prepared in a stressful situation to get out, to take care of yourself and to help take care of others. And it is one of the parts of prepping that we ignore. And then from the homestead side, like I have a back injury because I hadn't been, rowing enough or swimming enough, and my core has gotten out of shape. And that's totally my bad. I went out and weeded last week, and I'm now like, I got to do morning core exercises.
It's the free part. Nobody wants to do it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody who's prepping has a wheelbarrow. Everybody who's prepping can farm or carry something. Work core, right? Just go out and flip some tires. Pick up your bush hog. I mean, that's what's going to end people. It's going to be, you never hear a dude that's, throws his back out squatting 415 pounds. It's always, I bent over to pick up a pencil. And nobody wants to do that free shit because it does take effort, right? You can't sit in your bed at midnight and buy bullshit off Amazon.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So we just had our first homesteader boot camp student, which is it was an experimental thing. Somebody who I met at Self-Reliance Festival, and she came to my poultry processing workshop, totally new to homesteading, out of New York, like Manhattan, New York, has land down here, raw land, is building her house closer to you, John, than to me. And she says, I just want to come out for a couple weeks and shadow you to figure out what this homesteading thing's about so I can start making decisions about things on my own piece of land. And I said, well, let's talk about that. What do you want to do? And she gave me her 3 goals. And I said, we can do that in 3 days. So she came out, we got it done basically in a day and a half. And I learned, I just said, pay me what you think it's worth this time, because I'm going to use it as a foundation to maybe offer some programs like that and to get other homesteaders motivated to do the same thing. We need more mentoring going on. People who are panicked about growing their gardens, taking care of livestock, getting their land ready, choosing what goes where on their land. Imagine if 10 or 12 homesteaders in our network start saying, okay, 5 times a year, I'll take somebody for this amount of time, and this is what we cover, and have them on site. That's like a huge kickstart for people. And it was really interesting. But the thing that I became aware of is how much we are running up and down hills all day long.
Yeah. Back just real quick to touch too on the Self-Reliance Festival. If you wanted to come out, if you're watching this, obviously you consume social media of some sort. And if you have a business, you should be doing social media. You could come to the Self-Reliance Festival and literally talk to 200 different people and have no interest whatsoever in homesteading and learn something. You're going to literally walk away every day with multiple things that are actionable that you could implement and turn into lots of money literally in the next 5 days just from having those conversations. You could just take it and put it right in your journal, and you could just write it right down and take it home. You could implement a lot of stuff that you're going to get from those conversations in the hotel room or out in the tent.
It's funny you mentioned that, John, because the biggest thing, and it's really, we probably ought to talk about the workshop also, but I want to say this because it's really a profound value. And I think you hit it right there, is that the biggest thing I think I took away, unlike any other thing. And like I said, we have been to tons of festivals over the years. That was the most important thing I walked away, because I walked away with this mindset of what I thought. I just thought we were one of the few high functioning people in this area.
Yeah.
I didn't realize until I met you and John that, hold on, man, I got I got people out there that can push me, and both of you have in enormous ways that made me honestly and truly better in every aspect of homesteading, better in business, better in my communication, and better in every single way. So it's iron that sharpens iron. That's the biggest thing I took away from being at that festival, and why, honestly, as soon as William and I got home, I'm not kidding y'all, we were literally back and forth like, hey, you remember what you learned here? Hey, what about this over here? Remember what Spirko said? You remember what Nicole said? How about that business thing with John? And I've talked to John about this privately, is that every single thing I pulled away from there was gold. It made me better in every single way imaginable. Every single way imaginable. And that's where I think this festival outshoots the others by many deviations. And I'm not dogging these other festivals. You're dealing with people, like John said, that have been in the business, in their kind of business, and you'll be shocked at how much overlay there might be, or all the people that walked away with myself included, with better business ideas. Or there was one lady that walked away with a soap idea because of a conversation that she had with somebody that I wasn't even in on the conversation. And she said, man, I can't wait to get home and do this. And she's off doing it. And so that, I think, it's that business component also that's passively woven into the entire thing, where we walked away from there after seeing so many different things and seeing so many different people. We walked away from there thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to kick everything up. And honestly, from that last time until now, everything on every metric has improved immeasurably. And I'm not overstating it, but while I'm on it, before I pass the mic here, let me just say also, it wasn't long ago that we were just out at John's, all three of us. We did a swale workshop. We put in buckwheat and cowpea. Now, I haven't really talked to John about how it's doing, but we're having part 2 of what's going to happen there. So, folks, if you're going out there, it's the day before the Self-Reliance Festival kicks off. Last time we butchered a pig. And, wow, who's that ugly dude that just popped on that screen? Dude, I look like I ought to be shot out of a cannon. I need a better
You can redo your headshot, man. You just got to send it to me.
Yeah.
I have a cannon shooting helmet for you.
Yeah, dude, I look awful in there. But, hey, I'm not that vain. But the point of it is, in this next one, folks, that's what you're going to see. I don't think, and Nicole would probably tell you better, but I don't think there was anybody that was disappointed. Maybe I yapped a little bit too long here and there, but I don't know.
I'm still getting emails, people loving that last one.
I'm sorry, Nicole, I stepped on you. What was that?
I said I'm still getting emails from people saying how much they like that swale workshop.
Well, this one here, John, why don't you tell us how those swales are doing, and what we're going to do next at this one? Because honestly, this is the pièce de résistance.
So they have bushes all over them, right? Like I texted you 2 photos while we were on the back end of this. So I guess you're on the phone. You haven't seen them yet. There's a good 12 to 16 inches of green carpet all over all of those swales right now. We had rain yesterday. Looks like we're about to have rain. There's a few days in between from the time of planting till now when I'm running water. 10, 15 minutes and then moving hoses and stuff, big tripod sprinklers about as tall as I am, rainbirds. But we're getting water. Everything's growing, man. Everything, it's covered. You can't see hardly any of the dirt. It's just covered in green. So the next step is, the understory and then the trees. And the understory, because we can plant some of it even though the trees aren't in place, right? Like we're going to put in what? Oregano. We're going to put in blueberries. We're going to put in daffodils. We're going to put in garlic. We're going to put in things that will grow right now, even before the trees are there. And when the trees do come in, those things will still grow, and then we'll add more, right? Once we have trees, we'll put vines and stuff that will go up the trees. But right now, we're putting in what we can put in so that, number one, you can see it, and number two, everything we put in is fixing the soil as well as keeping the soil in place.
That's awesome.
You know what's really cool about this? And I've said it before, with all that John and Nicole has going on, honestly, one of the best, probably the best student I've ever had in permaculture, believe it or not, is John. You tell this dude one time what something's for, and I don't know how your brain works that way, brother, but usually when we explain this to people, it usually requires a lot for it to sink in. And it's amazing how you're becoming, and you already were, whether you know it or not, you were a pretty impressive permaculture designer the first time we came out there when we were at that festival with all the things. And folks, that's one thing you're going to see out there. You're going to see aquaponics. You're going to see swales in action, where everybody has been asking forever and a day, where do I go to see swales? Well, you're going to see them right there on this real life. It's not a demonstration site that's heavily manicured. It's a real life factory and a living zone and all these things. And it's about, I predict that when it's all said and done, folks, you want to be on the ground level of this, because not only are you going to take this stuff home, whether it's how to do a swale, how to plant the guild, not only are you going to take this stuff home, you're going to see it in 3-dimensional ways in no other place, in no other festival in America where you're ever going to see it on the ground. So you want to be there. You want to see this. We don't need to sell. I'm not trying to do the hard sale or anything like that. It's just all the people that keep hitting me up on how to do this. Here's your opportunity. Here's your golden opportunity to do it in the most inexpensive way, to go out there and see this done up close and personal with swales that function the way they should, and to see an entire guild planted at once. Like John said, most of it, we're going to try to get almost all of it in there. What's that going to be, on the 30th or?
Yeah, that's on the 30th. It's on Friday. It starts, I believe, at 10 a.m., but it might be 9. Let me look.
Not only that,
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with lunch. And if we go longer, we go longer.
Like this last one we did Saturday and Sunday. Saturday night, we all hung around, all of us, till midnight almost, just talking about whatever we wanted to talk about. And the conversations were off the hook. Like stuff that you can't have the conversation here. So to be in person and talk about whatever we want. And some people weren't interested in that big circle we were talking in, and they broke off and did their own things. Some of them, went and slept in the teepees or, whatever. But to have
we need to put teepees in.
To have and we totally can. We should do like some decks with yurts and military tents. But to have access to those people in a setting where you've only got 40 people, right? It's a very different conversation than when you have hundreds of other ears around.
Yeah, somebody's asking where to get tickets to the Plant Guild and Tree Workshop, which is September 30th at the Special Operations Equipment Compound in Camden, Tennessee. Starts at 10 a.m. You can get that at self-reliancefestival.com, where you can also get your Self-Reliance Festival tickets. And that's, if you go on the front page, there's a big red button, or if you click on tickets, it's in the list of options. Just putting that out for the audio people and also to answer that question.
Nicole, can I also put out there also, if anybody has the inside track of, I'm not going to say their names, but I thought I had an inside track to people that would be interested in supplying the trees for us. And they sounded very excited at first. Not so sure that's going to work out, because I think they've actually taken the time to examine mine and John's channel. So I don't know that they're down for that. But if anybody knows of any tree distributors out there that might be interested in supplying the trees and the shrubs that we're going to need for this project, if you know anybody, if you have the inside track of anybody who would, I'm sure Nicole would be, she's basically the brains behind this whole thing. I'm sure there'd be a pretty good trade in terms of advertisement. If you could supply the trees, shrubs, and everything else, we'll take care of. But if there's anybody out there has the inside track of anybody, you can either email Nicole, I'm sure she'll tell you how to get a hold of her, or you can email me at billy@permapasturesfarm.com.
Yeah, I'm Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com, or go to livingfreeintennessee.com and click on contact, and those emails go to me.
Yep.
Okay. So that was a good explanation of that. Somebody's asking if we show how to make micro-swales. So here's something cool. We video recorded the swale in class, and we're turning that into a video, that like a video training thing that can be purchased. And I know Billy's gotten a lot of email about when's that going on sale. I just got the first cut to look at today. So we're coming together, and we do show micro-swales, but we don't show how to put them in because they were already in when we were there. Micro-swales are more, they're smaller. So a big swale is like a big ditch that's 90 degrees to the slope of your property. And, there's the water goes into the trough, and there's a hill, you plant on the hill. And this helps keep the water on your property, and it can help with drainage problems. but also grow a lot of things and retain the water on your property. Not all properties are ideal for swales, and some very steep properties you may not want to do that. But micro swales seem to fit better on a steeper slope. So what I'm looking, because I live steep, what I'm looking at here, and we've already added some, is micro swales are a great way to help direct water where I need it to be, and also help retain some of the water in places where I want it. So Autumn, Dawn, thank you for the $10. Do a rent-a-tent for those without camping equipment. That's a great idea. I know whoever wants to do that better email me.
That is a good idea. And micro swales can be different things, right? We can just we can cut with a keyline plow, and that's your micro swale. I have 9 micro swales here. We're going to probably add 6 more beyond it. And what mine are 12 inches deep, 12 inches across, and they're spaced 6 feet apart. Now, I went to mow because a lot of my stuff on my swales there are getting taken over. The grass is bigger than the plant. I went to mow and realized, oh shit, 6 feet. We didn't cut those things big enough to run a mower through. We're definitely not running my skid steer through there. So we're going to probably end up having to demo some of those and space them out even further. But if you come here, I have micro swales that are covered in plants, and we have willow trees and other fodder trees for animal feed growing in them. And you can see them firsthand. You can watch them work.
That's what I was hoping to point out also, is that at a place like this where nobody ever gets to see a swale up close, and for those that don't know, a swale is a water harvesting ditch. Like Nicole said, I think she actually said it better than the official definition, where it's 90 degrees to the slope. Basically, it's perfectly level, and it captures this water and it seeps it in through the landscape. The beauty about all of this, and John, I'm thankful that we didn't actually tie in the regular swale to the micro swales, because I was also thinking that too. People can actually go there and see, oh, okay, this is what a micro swale looks like. You know what? I could probably do this with a shovel in an afternoon. I could probably do this. And they can also see what a bigger swale is. And they could also see if what you want to do is go ahead and demo those and redo them and put some spacing between them. That's not a bad idea, but they could also find out at the same time how we tie the big swale, if we wanted, with a spillway, which was your idea. That's why I said you're a budding permaculture designer in a massive way, because that was completely your idea, to take the pond, which is connected to the top swale, which will now be connected potentially. That was your idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, to tie that and have it spill over into the micro swale and also to the pond that's down the hill. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what you designed, right?
And the new one that we're going to build that is not there yet.
Yeah, that's cool. So Michael Vertrice, thanks for the super chat. He has a question. How's the Carnivore Keto Group Weight Loss Challenge going? Also, is there somewhere to report the data? So last week, we had Toolman Tim on, who'll be speaking at Self-Reliance Festival. And we all decided to just get serious about weight loss between now and Self-Reliance Festival and be really good about keto or whatever else we're doing. And at Self-Reliance Festival, we're going to say how much weight we lost, those of us who want to lose weight, from last week until Self-Reliance Festival. So what has happened, Michael, is people have emailed me what they lost on their initial week, but it's a good idea to have somewhere to report that. So I will put a blog post with a form up at selfreliancefestival.com before the end of the week, and you can submit your updates. I know I've gone down 7 pounds in 1 week, and Toolman Tim has lost 10 pounds. So it's no joke. I had a lot of inflammation going on, and it was almost instant that it started happening. So those of you who don't know much about the proper human diet, check out Dr. Ken Berry's YouTube channel, Dr. Ken Berry, The Proper Human Diet. He talks a lot about all of the different benefits that can come from changing your diet, including weight loss, but not just weight loss. And he also addresses the challenges of transitioning from a typical American diet to a keto lifestyle.
I wish I'd have known about this little contest. I'm going to have to jump in on it.
Jump in, bro. You still can.
See, that was another thing I pulled from the last conference, is that John and I and you are all pretty much the same age. Me and John look like 30 miles of bad road, and Nicole looks like she's 10 years younger than either one of us, which was a shock because when I did find out her age, I'm like, how does she look like 10 to 12 years younger than us? Anyway, point being is that's another thing I walked away from is like, man, you know what? If I'm out here doing this farm life, man, I really need to straighten up and fly right, because I was as hard as woodpecker lips a year ago. And now all of a sudden I'm as, I've gotten, I've started eating all this stuff Michelle makes, but doesn't eat herself. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I never in my life, and I said it before, I never in my life had an excuse for why I never brushed my teeth, because I always brush my teeth. So if I don't have an excuse for that, I shouldn't provide an excuse for why I didn't work out. And I'm already a farmer. So, I mean, it's not like the inherent work of doing that. It's not the inactivity. It's the putting the wrong stuff in my mouth. And now I've been examining this stuff from Dr. Barry. Look, I'm on board, man. I'm going to get back to fighting weight before this thing kicks off. So all of you people that are in this competition, get used to disappointment, because I'm about to pull out in front, baby.
Do you think gummy bears are on that meal plan?
Oh man, those got me so bad last time.
You can't blame all that shit on Michelle, bro.
Yeah.
Dude, I ate 2 bags. John sells these gummy bears, and he won't admit it. His wife won't admit it, but I know they're putting crack in it.
Totally.
I'm telling y'all what, these gummy bears are like, I was in the middle of a York peppermint patty commercial. I ain't kidding you. Between Rosie's stuff and those gummy bears, I ate 2 whole bags of gummy bears. When them things, I took a couple, like, those gummy bears. What could it be like? Nah, man, I don't know what's in those things. But man, yeah, we got 3 packs of gummy bears up there right now, and I haven't touched one of them since about 3 days ago. So I'm on the wagon with gummy bears.
Yeah, that's definitely not keto approved. It was actually back to the homestead boot camp experiment we did here. The person who did it is a total carnivore eater. And so I had to change nothing about my cooking for meals. And I probably wouldn't have anyway, except for to warn people, if you want bread, you better bring it, or whatever, or sugar, or sugary drinks of any kind, because my strategy to staying good on keto is don't have it in the house, and then you don't eat it. And if there's like a delicious homemade loaf of bread wafting through the air and some nice raw milk butter, we can't have that here, because I'm not enough of an adult to withstand that temptation. It's just too good. So
how do you do this with Tactical around? My man's in the chat over here saying, I don't work out because I'm a farmer. You could look at Tactical. I mean, that dude's hard. He's a former Marine. But man, my man could hang glide on a Dorito. He ain't exactly going around the kind of, I mean, Tactical, I don't think you need to worry about
that. That needs to be a t-shirt. I can hang glide on a Dorito.
Yeah, I don't think he has to worry about what he eats. I saw my man eat after we went out to eat, and I don't think he gained a pound, man. I wish I had whatever he's got going on there.
He's got genetics that make him one of those skinny people. And if you watch Dr. Barry's stuff, he will say, there are people like Nick Ferguson and Tactical Redneck who their entire lives can eat whatever they want and they end up rail thin no matter what, but they can still develop metabolic health problems by having too much sugar and too many unhealthy grains in their diet. And then there are people like Jack Spirko and me and Dr. Barry, where if I go off the reservation, I can have like one really good cheat a week and it's not bad. But if I consistently do that, like 1 cheat a day is the same as like, I will just balloon out. It's like, wow, I gained 5 pounds in 1 week. Like, how did that happen? And that's just my biology. So not everybody's the same, and he doesn't approach it that way. Tactical has been pretty strict keto for at least a year and was eating keto before then, but drank beer. And so that's just his healthy weight. Like he gained about, 10 pounds in the last year and then has just stuck there. And that dude, you've seen, he can put it away. He can eat like copious amounts of whatever, but he does not eat any carbs at all because they make him feel bad.
I'm down. I'm definitely on board. I mean, I got the physical activity isn't a problem just by virtue of being a farmer.
Yeah.
It's just, the most, think about it, the most liberty-minded thing any of us does on a daily basis is taking the conscious decision about what I'm going to put in my own mouth. So if I can't control that, how do you expect to control any other aspect of your life? I mean, you think about it. I mean, if I'm waddling around, I mean, what I think is bad shape isn't all that bad for other people. I'll drop this stuff. I'm sure I've been down this road. I'll drop it pretty quick. And Michelle, she gets irritated because you can just do this for 2 days and be back on whack, be back in the saddle again. But it's a matter of doing it. If I can't even, it's that accountability. That's another thing I learned from John at that festival is if I'm not accountable to myself, if I'm not a walking demonstration, like with all the shirts I wear, I'm always advertising something on my shirts. Well, I mean, what's the bigger advertisement than myself? I feel like I need to look the part and be the part. And then when I do, I know I'm going to feel good too. I mean, that's really the biggest benefit to all this is I don't know how I can evangelize this lifestyle if I don't look like I evangelize this lifestyle.
Yes. So anybody who wants to jump in on the keto challenge, it's not too late. You can do it. If for some reason you're crazy and you're not coming to Self-Reliance Festival on October 1st and 2nd, I know some of you have a life and you're doing other things. You can still participate. I would love to see our network go down a size or two. We'd probably all love to watch ourselves go down a size or two. So it's a win-win. Go for it. This Michael just says he's down 30 pounds in 6 weeks. You better pack the proverbial lunch. He's coming for you, Billy. He's coming for you.
I am going to pack a lunch. In fact, I think I might. I mean, I'm kind of weighing this out because I got a couple of pigs I'm going to butcher over the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm going to see what I can do because I'm not so sure I can fit it all in here. I have a mobile freezer out here. That's how full the freezers are right now. So we're going to play around with some things and we'll see about what we can do out there. But honestly, I was doing the working out and then it's funny how you always make an excuse for things, but you never make excuses. I never heard anybody make an excuse for why they didn't catch up on the last season of ER or why they didn't catch up on the latest movie that went out there. So maybe we ought to redirect some of that same energy and put it into all the reasons why I don't have to get myself in the shape that, and it's just little things you do. And for me, it's not even changing up my lifestyle. I don't have to go out there and lift weights. All I have to do is do the most liberty-minded thing I can possibly do. And that's governing what I choose to put in my mouth. That's where it all comes from, at least for me.
Yeah. And I think so. As I've thought about this, I used to think people were crazy who get up at 4 a.m. and work out, John Willis. And I was like, there's no way I'll ever do that. I only want to work out at 10 a.m. And that was my excuse because then I'd be busy at 10 a.m. And that's a good way to not work out. The morning routine. I don't care if you're getting up at 4 or 4:30 to do it or getting up at 6 to do it. But if you include some level of body exercise in your morning routine every single day, you at least got that done. And what I found happened when I started doing that is that I started doing more things later in the day. It was like I did my morning routine, which has some business things, has some personal things, has that physical part, do my day. And I'm like, I feel like, I don't know, rowing on the rower or going swim laps or taking my dogs on a second walk today or whatever it is. Doing the important stuff first makes your whole day better. Putting the important stuff off till the end of the day, you're telling yourself the story that stuff's not important, even though it is important. That doesn't mean you don't do important things late in the day, but I always think about like what's most important today, and I'm going to do that first. That's why my coffee orders are waiting to be picked up by the mailman today. Wanted to make sure that was done before I was here.
What's the important stuff?
That's different for every person. Right?
So what's the easiest thing not to do, right? It's physical movement for most people. I'm going to go to the gym after work, right? If you get up early in the morning, you don't have anyone else around you, right? If you get up at 4:30 in the morning, it's dark for a good another hour to 90 minutes, right? So you're probably not going outside and working in the garden, right? that is a time when you can do those things that you will not do, or it's too easy to negotiate with yourself at the end of the day. I'm too tired. You have no excuse. If you get up early and you get physical movement, it will ignite something in your metabolism, right? If you can't get an hour of sustained cardio, if you can't get 30 minutes of sustained cardio, do 10 minutes, right? Do 10 minutes of sustained cardio, and then somewhere in the middle of the day, do another 10 minutes if you have to. But get that, right? Just get it. What if for every hour of physical movement right now at age 50, what if that adds another day or 2 days of life or better quality of life between 70 and 80, right? I know dudes that walk in here that are 80 years old, and when you have a conversation, they tell you they're 80 years old, and you're like, there's no way this dude's over 55 years old. And when you talk to them about what they've done, there was always physical movement in there. That's the thing that's free, and it's the thing nobody wants to do. But like Billy said, how many times have you been like, hey, what'd you do this weekend? I binge watched whatever, series on TV, or I binge watched Netflix, right? Netflix and chill. You just watched fucking 200 hours of television? Like, that's what you did? But you're going to tell me that you don't have time to do things. And the crazy shit is, I'm never like, hey, motherfucker, did you work out this weekend? No, they walk in and tell me how they were going to, right? I don't ever ask the question. They insert themselves into the conversation. Hey, I wish I could make more money. You ask a few, questions. You have a few sentences of dialogue, and then you rapid fire 10 things. And, once that dude tells me I can't do this, we're done. Like, I have no more time for you. That, like, you there's a wall here now. You are dead to me until you come back. Like, you're an energy vampire. If we're going to have that conversation and you're going to come into my space where I can breathe your air, you have to have action. Otherwise, there's 50 other dudes that I can talk to that will. I literally walked away. Some guy asked me something the other day. I don't remember who it was. Amanda might remember. And I walked away and I go, man, I just gave that dude, literally, if that dude implements any 2 of those 5 things this week, his income will double. And she said something. I go, he's not going to do a fucking single one. She goes, what do you mean? I go, because every time I said it, he had an excuse for why he couldn't do it. If you speak in the negative, you have nothing but negative coming. It's not, I can't afford this. It literally is as simple as, how can I afford this? It reprograms your brain. And people cannot grasp that it truly is that simple. They can't get it in their head.
Yeah, it is that simple, and it doesn't mean the solution happens tomorrow. That's the other part. It's that simple, but it also takes work and discipline to get it done. My CrossFit coach, my favorite one, used to say, I can't add years to your life, but I can add life to your years.
Oh, I like that.
That's literally start working out every day. Because when I first started learning how to, because I was a competitive swimmer, that's how I know how to work out, went to the gym to lift weights because I was, wanting to be mobile longer. And I just, like, if I had not taken that step years ago, I think I would be probably 150 pounds heavier now. Just because I was traveling all the time and eating the crap that you eat when you're on business trips. And he was like, listen, I will give you 15-minute workouts you can do on your hotel room floor without bringing anything with you. And if you just do that and then come in here when you're in town, you're going to be better off. And he was right.
That was another thing I brought away from self-reliance there is, honestly, what I heard John say and what you say right there, Nicole, is I haven't had the benefit of having people speak that way outside of us in our lives. Me, Michelle, and William, for the most part, is that, honestly, a lot of the people that were in our friend circle are becoming pruned, and they don't yet know it. The reason why is because for the longest time, I'd suspected, I'm like, okay, man, I guess we all need friends, but I'd ask the good Lord, I'd prayed that the good Lord take out the people that are unproductive in our lives. And some of those people being family too, believe me. I've talked about that at great length. And to put in their place the people that would edify us and that we could edify them to where we would have this synergy between us. And the good Lord has answered in every single way, in ways that I really could not have imagined, because I don't do well with a bunch of people. I've never done well with this, but I was like, what's the alternative? I've never been able to do well with people that give constant reasons that, Oh, everybody's a racist. I can't get ahead. I got family members like that. Oh, I can't get ahead. I got this disability. Well, I know a paraplegic making a living. I know a quadriplegic with his own business, or knew him.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear garbage. And that's another thing I didn't see at Self-Reliance, is I didn't see a bunch of people telling me, I can't do this, I can't do that, I got that, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, I got myself surrounded with a group of people who are people that are already doers, people that I would like to forge a relationship with, and I didn't even know they existed until that festival, which is why as soon as it left, man, I was like, good night. I know I got to go home, but man, I wish it wasn't right now. And that's always a fantastic feeling when you find yourself in a company. And John said it all right there. That's why I'm saying a lot of the people that have been historically my friends are going to get pruned, because if we're not, like even the Bible says, if we're not walking on the same road together, then where are we going? You can't go this way and I can't go that way and expect to have a conversation together. Unless we're on the same track, it doesn't even have to be the same thing. But unless we have that same mindset, that can-do mindset, what Zig Ziglar said, going after Moby Dick in a rowboat and taking the tartar sauce with you. If you don't have that mindset, then I just ain't got time to spend on you. I really don't. And that's what I pulled away, and why I've had such incredible affinity every time we do these interviews, or whenever I have a chance to even talk with you guys, whether it's through, private video chat or whatever the case, or Nicole coming to the house because John won't leave the state. Whatever the case may be, whenever I find myself and my family find ourselves in the company of people like y'all, and you got a lot of them at that Self-Reliance Festival, you're like, okay, there's a lot of awesome people in the homestead world, a lot of people in the permaculture world, but this is my tribe. This is where I feel the most affinity.
You don't have to prune them. You don't got to prune them, man. You're going to grow. You're going to perform. You're going to have canopy, right? Just like a tree, just like that black walnut. You're going to get up there. You're going to get big. You're going to shade out all those dudes that are little weeds, and they will just die, right? They don't want to breathe the air you're breathing. You make them look bad. We don't even have to prune them. We don't have to push them away. They'll do it on their own. When you perform at a higher level, you will attract people like that to you. And the people who are just the talkers, they'll go away, man. They can't get through the crowd of the people that are high performance. You will attract what you are, and you will get what you tolerate, right? If you tolerate low performance, if you tolerate mediocrity, you're going to become that, because the reality is you're going to be the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And then access, right? I'm in some mastermind groups, I'm in some business development groups, and all these dudes, they have complete separate phones, right? I have a phone, and if your number's not in my phone, we don't communicate. And then they have another phone, which is social media. And it eventually gets to a point where you don't even handle your social media. Somebody else handles the social media. And the only way we communicate, like if you want to talk to Ed Milet, you want to talk to Andy Frisella, you better have that actual phone number. Like, you better be in that phone both ways, or you're never going to talk to them. It's never going to happen. We don't have time for that. We don't have time for them dudes. I am busy moving forward. I don't have time to look back to see what somebody's saying. It doesn't matter.
You know what I realized in us also, and this has been an adventure. I mean, Michelle and I were just talking about it on the way home, is that other business ventures we've done in the past, we've done a lot of them over the years, and all the ones we've done ourselves have always worked out well, very well. The only ones, the things that would always drive us crazy is getting into a business arrangement. And folks, anybody out there listening to this, please, especially as a business owner, take this to heart. It's getting in the business with people that I got to motivate. I can't stand that. I should not have to motivate you to do what should be in your own best interest, especially if we are sharing this project. You reap the benefits of it. And then what I was finding for the longest time, all of us have, William and Michelle and I, is that every time we would do this, we would do 99% of the work, but they still expected 50%. That ain't happening. And that's another thing. Look, I am not trying to oversell this self-reliance thing. Frankly, it wouldn't break my heart if a lot of people didn't go, because I kind of like being able to work with all the small crowds and everybody. So, I mean, call that. I guess you could almost say, to a certain extent, it's it's a selfish motive to a certain extent. I don't really mean that, because it was a joy to meet everybody there. But I think you're right, John. And what I'm finding out also is that the people who they complain, they're chronic complainers, talk about all these wonderful business ideas, but never in the course of their lives will put foot to butt and take that risk, which to me, it seems a greater risk than working in this factory doing a job you hate. I would rather be the poorest dirt farmer in the middle of Kansas calling my own shots in the course of a day than working as a highly paid factory worker for GM or whatever the case may be, whatever you consider. Honestly, that's one thing of being in the company of you people. Sorry, I used you people. That's racist these days. I shouldn't have said that. It's pretty awesome being in the company of all these high performance people that I never thought I would have access to, and feeling a lot less alone in this world, because now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I really met people I can work with, where I don't have to motivate them and tell them, you really ought to be doing this. You ought to be doing that. I don't have to do that. So I'm looking forward to, like you said, John, this is a new chapter in my life. This is one you've been on, and likely Nicole, for a very long time. But for me, this is the part of Plato's cave where I emerge from this cave and I see this blue sky, only to find out that there's something beyond that blue sky. So I thought I was out of the matrix, but I'm finding that there's other levels. So
like you said, business partners and stuff like that. This could be business partners. This could just be friends, whatever. Assess it like this, right? If you had to leave your house and leave that person at your house with $100,000, when you come back, would that $100,000 be there? Would you leave them with $100,000? If you wouldn't, don't be in business with them, right? If you had to leave, if that person was going to move in your house and you had to go to prison for a year, would you leave that dude with your wife? If the answer is no, we're not in business with him. Would you leave him with your 12-year-old daughter? If the answer is no, we're not in business with that dude. Might be the best at what you need, but if the answers to those questions are no, that dude, that's not even an option. He has no access.
I could also add, I'm sorry, Nicole, I got to point this out too. Okay. There was also a number of people that, honestly, one of my big things also in the past has been people that don't keep their word. Well, how cool is that? That on a business, and I've talked about it before, testimony, both of you know her, on a handshake deal that I met out there at Self-Reliance Festival with no expectation of reward, no expectation of payment, just because she believed enough in her own thing. I asked her, hey, would it be possible and to make me some music? And she did it. I don't know how many people I've reached out to, musicians, asked them to do that. Every single one of them came up flat. Well, I met other people out there that for the first time in my life, they give me their word and they actually keep it. And that's another genre of person that I've met there, where honestly, when you lie to me, if I see you, there may be something maybe you misspoke on. Okay, I can forgive that. But if you give me your word and you tell me you're going to do something and you don't come through, then you lose. I'm not saying we're not friends necessarily right off, but I'm saying you lose a lot of respect in my book, or you just forgot. I understand we forget things. I get that. But if you gave me your word and we made a handshake deal, you know how many people that I met at that last festival, you two included, where I've established, and this has just been like no time at all, I've established some awesome, not only business relationships, but friendships, legit friendships that I know that I'm confident that will last for as long as I'm around, on the basis of just those things that should be fundamental. And I don't see them. I don't have that opportunity, but I am so thankful to have the opportunity to be around people who actually keep their word. What a concept.
But it works both ways, man. I know that Billy from Permapastures is coming back here, so my shit better work, right? Like he's going to call me on it, right? You keep me accountable, right? Just the same way. If you come in here and I'm like, bro, you're looking a little puffy. I thought you told me you're working out, right? I'm going to joke with you, right? But I'm going to say those words because you told me, hey, I'm putting in some physical movement every day and I'm going to look different in 90 days when I'm back there. I'm going to say that. I'm going to poke you and prod you, but I'm damn sure going to say it in front of a bunch of people. And you know that. If you come in here and these swales are dead, you're going to be like, what the fuck, John? We did all this work and you let these fucking things die, right? That's not gonna happen. It's not going to happen.
That feedback of accountability is why the community aspect of prepping and homesteading, I think, is so important. And we don't always, I mean, we in our community talk about it, but consciously surrounding yourself with people who are willing to tell you no and willing to call you on your puffy shit is really important, because there are things people don't want to say to people. And it's hard, but your true friends will say it to you, especially if they know that you're not living up to your goals and you're not living up to what they know you want to do or what they know your passion is. Like, my friends will be like, hey, you didn't do that thing. Is it because you don't really want to do that thing? Or is it because you're doing a bunch of stupid shit you hate instead of the thing you want to do? And I think that kind of community around you makes a huge difference in your success or failure.
That's the mark of a real friend to me. And the Bible's filled with it. All through Proverbs, where Solomon, this is, the wisest person that ever existed. And he's like, the mark of I wish I could remember it, and I'm going to have to commit that to memory. But all throughout Proverbs, all throughout the Bible, are these people that honestly consider their highest friend. And it's something I've always desired. If somebody like my Army buddies from way back, dude, there's no sugarcoating it either. I know with both of you two as well, that if I'm not doing what I'm saying, I want to be made right. There was a homesteading pastor that called me on something, and he was worried as to whether or not he would lose a friendship over it. And I was like, thank you. That I need more of that in my life. If I'm wrong on something, I want to be made right. If I got this false illusion that, I'm as hard as 3 times 9, and then John, if you tell me, hey, what's up? Like in Friday, this is my money, fat boy. If John were to come up to me and say something like that and call me out, I would thank him for doing it. That is the mark, in my view, of a real friend. Or he's saying, hey, dude, if he were to call me out and say, look, man, this swale thing, it was a bad idea. And here's the reasons why. I want to be made right. Now, I know that it's not, but I'm using a pretty ridiculous example because we don't screw that up. No,
that's a big thing to screw up.
The bigger point being is that that's what I fully expect from people that I call my friends, because there's not one of my closest Army buddies, no matter what illusion you may think of yourself, they're going to set you right. And I want to be made right. Forget about my feelings. Forget about any of that garbage. I would rather be made right than made to feel good any day of the week.
I just want to highlight this comment here for selfish reasons. I'm going to need a cup of afternoon coffee. I would love one too if anybody in the holler were listening to this stream and felt compelled to make me one. Okay, go ahead, John.
You want coffee because you're falling asleep, or do you want coffee because you want coffee? If you're having that bonk, go run literally as fast as you can for 30 seconds, and you'll be wide awake. You'll be wide awake.
Huh. I might have to try that, man. I mean, even, it's funny. I've never heard either one of you two, despite knowing full well that you two are up to your eyeballs like I am. I am literally up at the crack of dawn, and I don't go to bed till after midnight. And I'm usually doing business all the way up until the point where Michelle's like, turn that stupid thing off. I need but you know what? It's still funny that the people I know in my life, the ones who always, they work 9-to-5 jobs. They work 40-hour weeks. I work over 100 easily every week. And I know you two do as well. And I don't hear either one of you providing excuses. I don't mean to beat this dead horse, and I'm probably not, because I'd love to hit this question here. I guess to suffice it to say that thanks to that festival, thanks to the good Lord answering my prayers, I now have the blessing of being, and I'm not saying anything different. I'm not saying anything bad about the people I know or I've known who might watch this video and think, okay, I guess I've been pruned out. That's not how I do things. If I don't like you, believe me, you'll get a call. It ain't going to be no question about whether or not does he like me. There isn't any of that stuff. It's just we're on different paths, and you better get loose or get lost. That's just how it is. And it's not trying to be mean with you. I just don't have time to sit here and baby somebody through what you say it is your passion. If it's your passion, then how is it John, as busy as he is, can recite back to me everything we told him about all the things in the swale? And this is a man that gets up at the crack of dawn and gets maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. So I don't want to hear any excuses from anybody else. Nicole's the same way. She's working from dawn till dusk doing all this stuff. But let me digress into something real quick, because this guy wrote, Jason S. Jason, I'm not picking you out, homie. It's just eating right can be a challenge. How much junk food can you get for $5?
Oh yeah, that one I was going to bring up later. So let me bring up. I'm bringing up a comment. There you go. Eating right can be a challenge. How much junk food you can get for $5 versus something healthy for $5? When I started eating right, my grocery bill went up quite a bit. That's a really good topic of conversation.
Rotisserie chickens.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
Rotisserie chickens. Just go buy rotisserie chickens. Get you 5 rotisserie chickens. When you get them home, they'll be cooled off. If you don't want to touch them with your little rat claws, put on some rubber gloves, some surgical gloves, break them down, take some broccoli, nuke it in the microwave. Oh my God, I hate the microwave. Fine. Do whatever you want, however you want to do it. Fibrous carbs, right? Microwave, rotisserie chicken. Do whatever you want to do. I don't care what your diet is, but that's some bullshit. It's just what it really is I don't want to meal prep. I don't either. I have a chef that prepares my meals. I'm always amazed when I talk to people how they think things are so expensive, but you're not accounting for your time and what you could do with that time. You're not factoring in your dollars per minute. What do you cost per minute? And I know somewhere somebody's like, $1 per minute. You need to reevaluate your life. You need to look at your life differently. So there's a ton of shit you can do other than fast food. We call it clown food. I texted William on the way to the thing. I'm like, hey, we're stopping to get some clown food. Anywhere with a drive-through, that's clown food. Meat, just eat meat, like Amanda says.
Bam. You know, it's funny because yesterday it's, oh, look at that. She's got
servants out
there. Look, she's got servants out there. See, okay, that's my man.
Dude works hard.
We're making another T-shirt that says every holler needs a redneck.
Thank you.
Man, I love Tactical, man. He dropped some of those golden gems out there, things that all unexpectedly, man. He dropped some serious, tactical nukes of information.
So back to how your grocery bill goes up. When you transition to a keto or carnivore diet, at first you're eating more volume of the keto food as your body acclimates to it. And then you find you actually need less food if you just eat when you're hungry. And I think it starts mellowing out as long as you're not eating keto versions of sweets to replace it, keto versions of tortillas and bread and carby things. If you start taking the processed keto food out, for me, it's less expensive than what I used to spend before. It's notably less expensive. One caveat: I will buy a whole cow and I will put it in the freezer, and that is $3.50 a pound about. And that's not true in every market. But at $3.50 a pound for the whole cow, that's ground, that's steaks, that's roast, that's brisket, that's bones that I make into broth. I have found like the best way to stay on a budget is to, one, buy whole or half animals or quarter animals, depending on what you can accommodate. And two, eat food that isn't processed at all. No processed foods. And that means what dinner looks like here is meat and vegetable, or just meat, or meat and salad, which is meat and vegetable. That's what it looks like. Meat and 2 vegetables. Woo! Getting jiggy on that night. That's a couple of things. But and then I cut out the alcohol, and I do still drink sometimes, but I drink a whole lot less than I used to. And that was a huge boost on my budget. I'm not buying bottles of liquor every month.
Nicole, we were saving a pile of money. I mean, I know I'm not the average person because we raise and process our own meat. But what I was finding out when I was doing this thing before I decided to, jump off the train, so to speak, What we were finding out is that we were actually saving money. And just like you said, I'll go back to what Michael Pollan wrote, the guy who wrote the book Omnivore's Dilemma. People haven't read it. And he had a pretty interesting theory that where he says, you know, and he said this in an interview, I believe, one time. He says, you know what? I think you should be allowed to eat whatever you want as long as you make it. And under that is that you want ice cream, you got to make it. You want biscuits, you got to make it. Well, what they found out is that if you put that caveat in there, people will fundamentally eat much better. Just, you know, despite, you know, whatever your diet may be. So what we found out is that I was doing Sisson's primal diet. Number one, like you said, Nicole, at first, when you do that induction type thing in the beginning where your body's going from a, you know, to become a fat burner, yeah, you're going to consume it first. But what I found out is that satiety, when I had a fair amount of fat and meat, I really didn't eat all that much. My volume of food went way down. And in fact, I threw in intermittent fasting on top of it, and then the benefits were off the charts. If I do that again, I might look as young as you do right now. And with that intermittent fasting, I was like, hold on, man, I'm only eating maybe 1.5 meals a day. And there's sometimes some days where I fast the entire day. Like with William, he'll eat like one meal every 24 hours. And, you know, people are just now recognizing what Herschel Walker knew 30 years ago, where he would do one meal intermittent fasting. Maybe that's why the guy's 60 years old and looks like a Greek god right now. You know, I'm finding basically that guy's question is that we found out, honestly, the volume of food and the expense would have likely been in half combined with what Nicole said, where we just, if you're not buying that processed keto replacement stuff, if you're eating real food, you find out that you're really money ahead.
Yeah. And Michael Vertrice here says he's a truck driver. He's the guy who lost 30 pounds since last Self-Reliance Festival.
Right on.
He does all his meal prep and laundry 2 hours once a week. So if he can do it, we can all do it. Because meal prep helps a lot too if you just have it ready to go.
Think about how much time people spend going to eat, right? That's what we do now because we don't know what to do, right? Where are we going to go? See a movie, go eat. Go shopping, go eat. How much time do you spend going to eat, right? So if you ate one meal a day like William does, I've offered like good food. Like, hey, we're going to go eat. You want to eat? Hey, we're going to go here. Hey, you want some of this? William's like, no, I eat once a day. He's told me that probably 100 times. Like, I believe he eats once a day. Imagine, compared to us, he probably has another 2 to 3 hours in his day to do whatever it is he wants to do, not going to eat, not having to sit down. He eats once. I know a lot of people like that. They literally eat one time a day. My video dude, Brandel, he'd come in here and we'd be filming all day. And then at 12 o'clock, from 12 o'clock to 12:30, he would bust out a cooler with a shit ton of, I'm like, how in the fuck are you going to eat all that? And he would eat all that because he had a trainer and a diet. He had a diet plan. And like, you watch this dude transform over 3 weeks. Like, he could literally be almost contest ready probably in 4 to 6 weeks, just changing diet. Like, you want to gain muscle, it's not about, for a lot of people, the muscle's there. You got to melt all the bullshit around the muscle. Like, you will look 20 pounds heavier by losing 10% of your body fat. Like, you will look like, oh man, you've been working out. And it's not even about working out. It's about melting the fat off. And then you also hear so much stuff with keto. Look, guys, if you're doing all the keto treats and you're still drinking, all you're doing is you're carved up and you're putting fat and sugar and you're making yourself fatter. If you are not physically changing, and you should do this every single day, pull your shirt up, right, in the mirror, take your shirt off, take a photo of you just in your underwear every day. Stand in the same, put some tape on your floor so you're in the same place with the mirror. Shoot, you don't have to flex, you don't have to pose, take a photo. Be on it, this is for you. This is not for anyone else. And then just put them in a file and you can just scroll through and you should see a transformation over 30 days. If you don't, you're not in ketosis.
Man, that's a good idea. I never thought about doing that as far as taking the picture. But, man, I'm always worried that some hacker is going to get in there and then put that picture out on the internet. And then next thing I know, John and all the other guys out there dispense with their notion of all men being created equal. And then we got a real problem.
Don't you already have way worse shit in your phone? You better step your game up, bro.
Well, and here's one.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's my goal, but it's hard to break eating 3 times a day. Is that because you're hungry, which means you're probably not in ketosis, or is it because habit? We eat at this time, that time, and that time. Because I think one of the great things about running your own life is meal times don't have to be before I went to work, at noon when work lets me out, and when I get home from work. And that means you can just be like, I am hungry at 11 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon, and that's when we eat. Or if you're a once a day person, you're a once a day person.
Idaho Hoosier, OMAD, 1 meal a day. You know, I've heard OMAD a million times, and it never was in my head. 1 meal a day. Haven't all you guys just been like, holy shit, I was so busy, I forgot to eat? Have you noticed that when you're doing something you truly love doing, something you're really excited for, you forget to eat, right? Do you remember when your parents took you to Disneyland the first time and you didn't want to go eat when you were a kid, right? They would take you and sit you down and make you eat. You need to adjust your life so that whatever that thing you love doing, you're not thinking about food. We think about food. I do. I eat probably 15 times a day. I'm drinking these Kool-Aids you see. And for the person I was talking to about coffee, this is pre-workout. It's got way more caffeine than coffee does. So I'm not giving you shit about drinking coffee. But find something that you love so much that you forget to eat. We do that. I do it myself. When everybody's gone here at 6:30, I'll come in here and I'll spend 20 minutes trying to find some bullshit to listen to because I'm going outside. And then I'm like, oh, I better eat. I'm probably hungry. And then I come in and I eat. I'm not fucking hungry. I do it just out of habit. I do it so I don't have to do something else.
Nicole mentioned something that I think I can tie it all together. And it's just extraordinary to me how you two just weaved a tapestry that makes perfect sense to me. Nicole said something about, if you have a regular 9-to-5 job and you're working for somebody else, you have designated times in which you can eat, take breaks. As long as I can remember, I'm dead serious when I say this. The notion of somebody telling me when it is okay for me to eat has never sat well with me. For me, I do that with my cattle. I do that with my animals. And I've never been okay with this. In fact, I would always buck the tide when I was still a union electrician. I kid you not, as an act of what I thought was freedom and bucking the tides, and I was still a wage slave, a corporate sharecropper, whatever the case may be for you. The fact that somebody could sit here and tell me when I'm supposed to eat, like when I go out here and feed these chickens, they eat when I tell them to. When I feed that, any animal around here, there was nothing that made me feel more like cattle than having a designated time of the day when you tell me I can sit down and take a break. I'm no different than that cow out there plowing this field or a horse. And honestly, I think fundamentally, when I get down to what you two were talking about, there was nothing more freeing than saying, you know what? I'm taking away the safety net, man. I don't care about this idiotic security, what I think is a security of a regular job. The notion that somebody can ever tell me when I can eat is appalling to me. I know that may sound over the top, but honestly, as I woke up more and more as I've come out of this matrix, the notion that anybody could ever tell me when I eat or when I can sit down if I'm tired or when I can take a break or when I show up or when I arrive, if you're like that, then you probably want to go out there to the Self-Reliance Festival because you're going to meet a whole bunch of people who feel exactly the same way. I mean, am I weird thinking this way? I know this came out of nowhere, but I've always felt this way.
I think the biggest, most offensive moment in one of my jobs was that day when the boss came up to me and said, so I'm going to need you to work late. And you were not allowed to say no. So I'm supposed to get off at 6 and now I have to work till 8. Not allowed to say no. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I was scheduled for a certain number of hours. I have made other plans for dinner with my family. Why do I have to work late? And I argued with them. And they're like, yeah, but you'll lose your job if you don't work late. So that the choice is yours, right? Get fired or work those 2 hours. And that was probably one of the foundational moments for me to get out, to work towards not wanting to be in that position again, because now I work more than I did then, but the work I do is the work I love. So it's just living. Right. And that's the other thing about this lifestyle is, I'm not knocking it out of the park every single endeavor I undertake, but I'm undertaking things that I love to do, and some do better than others, but they're making me money so that I can afford to be where I am. And that's huge to me, just having that and having the freedom to, for the last day and a half, I've mostly been focused on doing this mentoring thing instead of a lot of the things I do. And I could do that. I could make that choice because I don't have somebody telling me, actually, Nicole, we need you to work 2 more hours.
Now, I understand you have to do that if you have a structured job. It's just I'm not cut out for it. I am not cut out to be anybody's. I mean, I understand if you have a business and you're running people, by and large, unless you have some pretty reliable people, you can't just say, okay, take break whenever you feel like it. I don't, I work for myself and I work harder. I mean, when I was out there working with my tools, I'm constantly like, man, is it break yet? Is it lunch yet? Is it any of those things? I'm ticking away the day. That ain't no way to live. Not for me. It may be okay for somebody else, but honestly, I would rather be living in a pup tent in a national forest. That's really the mindset I have right now. It's not the intent, but I would rather have that existence than go back there and go back to that life. And I understand that you have to have some level of structure when you run a business like that, but it ain't for me. No way.
So as a laborer or construction worker, right? As a framer doing concrete, brick, block, and masonry, I did all that shit. I didn't ever need the break. I was looking to see when I could stop because I hated the job. It was never because I worked so hard that I needed a break and needed to sit down or I needed to eat. It's that I wanted to stop doing that shit. But that's the only place the money came from at the time. But having done that, right, when they would drop me off with a wheelbarrow, a pickaxe, and a sledgehammer, and I would break out concrete slabs for remodels, that's a much better story to tell today when dudes are like, oh, this is so hard. Motherfucker, when I was 13, they dropped me off for 2 years with a sledgehammer, and I broke up concrete, picked it out, put it in a wheelbarrow, put it all around front, and then when the truck pulled up, I loaded all the concrete in the lifted up Toyota truck, right? People don't have any idea what hard work is. And I am a much better worker today because I did those jobs. And I look back, and there's nothing I do today that's hard compared to the work I did when I was 13 years old. But people have no fucking idea what hard work is. But even with that, when I was moving sheets of plywood or moving, 2x4s, when we were framing up new places, I never needed the break. I just hated doing the job.
Makes sense. You guys want to hit some of the gajillion questions we have in?
Sure.
Okay. Any recommendations for my 3.5 acres of gray slate clay ground I call home in Southeast Kentucky? Southeast Kentucky.
Have to see it, man.
Yeah. We get a lot of that. And yeah. John, this is why John's becoming a de facto permaculture designer, because he said it right there. It is nearly impossible to, even if you send me pictures, which a lot of people do and have done, it is nearly impossible to give you any recommendation without actually walking on that ground. I'm, wish the best for you, but can't really do much from here.
Yeah. That's also telling you advice on your property, having not seen it or knowing your goals with it is very hard. Like, what do you want to do with that? And I believe.
Let me say this. Like, I think he said clay, right? Like hard clay.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a hard property to work. Get you some raised beds, like right now. Like, go right now, get you something to put soil in and start growing some garden. Because you're going to accomplish something. You're going to build some momentum no matter what we do with the bigger scale of it, right? Take an area and whatever it is, right? Whatever you can manage. 10 by 10, 20 by 20, 100 by 100. Can you get wood chips? Can you get some kind of organic matter in there, right? Put wood chips down. Put chickens over the wood chips. If you can't do that, just start running chickens, right? The chickens will shit. They will kill whatever's there. It will grow back. Like I heard Billy the other day say on their chicken tractor on steroids, and running chickens, right? I'm running a 10 by 12 coop. I have 50 birds in that thing. I have them super, super high. I am doing scorched earth. I ran this coop and I pulled it 12 feet every day, and I would pull it twice a day, right? So when I'd move it, there's grass, and then the next day, because of all the manure and the urine in there, it would kind of yellow out and it would kind of spring back after a week. The next row right beside it, I'm literally leaving them an entire day. When I move them, there's like a slick of chicken shit, and there's just like a couple little weeds still kind of like barely like, oh my God, I might not die. But the next day they're dead. Both those areas look amazing. If you look at them literally 3 weeks later, you can't tell which one's which. But where we ran those birds right before they were right before the last Self-Reliance Festival. When was that? In June. If you look at it today, the grass is a complete different kind of grass. It's super thick. It's 16 inches tall. And I'm a gravel pit. Like, we've never wood chipped that area that I'm talking about. There's never been anything there. And if you left it to its own devices, the only thing that would have grown there was blackberries, some pine trees. And we get this plant that grows, I don't know what it is. It grows super tall. It only leaves out a couple inches, and you can pull it right out of the ground. But like, we're on a gravel pit. Like, anything you see growing here, there was nothing here. Like, they literally had big tractors and like steam engines and shit in here, just pulling gravel out of here. So, and we built all this soil here from wood chips, and then we had some goats. I wouldn't even run goats anymore. I don't need them. Wood chips and chickens. We're about to add 3 sheep.
Yep. And I would say this, the biggest mistake I see in permaculture and permaculture designs is people starting with the how or the tactic instead of the why. You start with the why, you go to the what, and then you do the how. And so if you're married to one tactic, which would be swales or, any of these other tools in your toolbox, but it's not relating to your big picture, you're very likely going to do something that you did not want to do.
Nicole,
ask me how I learned that lesson.
No, you said it all right there, Nicole, because actually you're using a method called the trivium by doing it the way that you're describing. And it's the way, believe it or not, I could monologue about this for probably 2 hours straight. Basically, it was a methodology of thinking that was intentionally extracted from the American schoolhouse precisely 150 years ago. And what that was it made you very, very difficult to hoodwink by doing that very method you described. You would ask before you did anything, and I'll put it in a nutshell. You would go through the who, what, where, when, then why, and then how, in that order. You had it to do. It was broken down into things called grammar, logic, and rhetoric. All 3 of them together, what was called the trivium. Who, what, where, when, that was grammar. Why, logic, and how. So all of that was intentionally extracted 150 years ago from the American schoolhouse for a whole variety of reasons that from the top of my head, I'm pretty sure I could do a pretty cool seminar about. There was one thing that was taken out and one thing that was taken in, all happened at the same time. But if you govern every aspect of your life, it makes you, a lot of people out there already have this built in. But this used to be a training that was done that we know all the way back since Alexander the Great. If you were a Roman slave and you gained your freedom, the first thing you were required to do by law was to obtain an education in how to think, because it was illegal to allow any slave to learn the trivium, which means 3 roads in Latin: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And they knew that if you put the why and the how and the who, what, where, when, if you mixed it all up, if you started asking why and how, you were putting your grammar before your logic, meaning that you were coming up with a conclusion like, oh, they're attacking us here because, they're jealous of American freedom. That would have never happened 150. You could never sell that lie 150 years ago. They would have demanded to hear the who, what, where, when, why, and how, and in that order. And I find it very interesting that even this is why I'm finding what you're saying extraordinary, because we use that same measure when we work in permaculture. Most designers don't even know that. but you do fundamentally. I've never had this conversation with you, but you just said that you applied the trivium because you are a logical thinker, which is frankly starting to become a very rare thing. But if we use that trivium and govern our decision making, really in all things, it's very, very difficult. And when you remove the contradictions, by the way, that's what you asking things in that order allows you to remove any contradictions or BS along the way. And then you can arrive at a method or methodology that makes sense. So yes, we should govern all things by using that methodology. That's why I named those 6 pigs I had. For real. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. That's what those pigs I have back there that I'm about to kill and put in the freezer. Man, I really don't want to do it now. There goes the trivium. The trivium is going to be in my freezer. But the fact is, here's a fundamental thing. Even though you may not have classical training on this, I was never given this training. I had to go out and acquire it. But here's what I have noticed. Here's what I've observed. Even though you or John and a lot of people that run in this circle, a lot of people that are in this chat right now, they don't even know what the trivium is. But I promise you, you govern your thinking with that methodology. That's why we got so many nut jobs running around today that will just believe anything they hear come out of the boob tube, whether it's from Fox, CNN, MSNBC, all of which are liars. The reason why there's a certain segment of us that already have this is that it's in there. It's been wired into you. But by and large, the average American public, the world public, I dare say, does not have that. They don't fundamentally do the who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Well, that's why some of these bills that keep getting passed, like, the Inflation Reduction Bill that doesn't reduce inflation, because I worked in public policy, that's where I learned it, was ask what problem we're really trying to solve here, right? Why are we doing this? And school choice was my favorite example. Are we trying to fix the system so it keeps going, or do we want children to learn what they need to know to prosper later in life? Because most of the policy prescriptions for bad schools make life better for the administrators or the teachers, and it doesn't help the children under the guise of helping the children, but it does not focus on how do we help children become adults? How do we help them have the skills they need to prosper in life and to be a big part of our society and to take care of themselves and their families and their communities? It's how it just all translates into how do these people make more money or get more benefits or have a more convenient schedule. And I'm sure teachers listening to this want to strangle me right now. I used to be a teacher. I'm not critiquing people who have a passion for teaching or who do genuinely. I think most teachers genuinely want to help children be functioning adults. I'm talking about the system and then the government policies to fix the system when it's broken. And we all know it's broken right now. That if you start asking the why, it starts making people stutter, which I love to do because that's kind of fun.
I think it's more insidious than that. I think we're almost even naive to believe that, right? There are good teachers. Most of them aren't in the public school system anymore. Most of the teachers do not want to see your kids succeed. Liberals don't have kids, they have your kids. And it's almost about fucking up your family. It's about taking your kids and the family that believes something different than their system and twisting it. I don't even believe anymore that they're trying to teach your kid how to be like them. I think they're literally trying to program your children to be the polar opposite of you. It's just like does mom smoke weed, right? Does dad touch mom? Do your parents have guns? Like, they're literally asking kids this. You want to fix the school system? Start with fucking cameras in the school. Why can I can send my kids to daycare and literally see my kids at daycare, but you can't at the school system? And when these kids were all home, these kids, the parents saw the crazy shit that was happening that the teachers were saying to these kids. Like, the way they're dressing on video is not at all appropriate to be in the classroom, but they were doing it on the camera. And that's not all. I mean, every time you see this, teachers wear capes bullshit, some of them, but for the majority of them, they don't have your kid's best interest. I don't believe that for 1 second. Not anymore.
I couldn't agree more. When you weigh this whole thing out, I remember I had the highest regard for these high school teachers when Facebook first came out, and I'm looking at these same high school teachers that I had this highest regard for. It sure is funny that every one of them were walking lunatics, and I didn't know it at that time. Of course, they weren't wearing the politics on their sleeves back then, but I mean, absolutely couldn't make complete sentences, that kind of thing going on. And I agree with you. I think it is that insidious. I think, how on earth can you possibly be a teacher? Just look at it this way. 100 years ago, they sent people off to college to learn advanced Latin and Greek. Now we go off to college to learn remedial English. I mean, what does that say of us as a population? Where I remember looking at a fifth grade math book. It was a fifth grade test from 100 years ago. Actually, it was 150 years ago. It was around the time of the Civil War. In fact, it was, about that time. And as an educated person, as an autodidact, which all of us are right here, right now, whether you know it or not, I didn't understand a word of it. But this was a fifth grader. They turned everybody out for a period of time. They turned everybody in our culture into what was called an autodidact, which is basically a self-taught person. That was the purpose of the grammar, logic, and rhetoric, was to make people BS proof and also to put them in the areas of their lives where they found fulfillment. And also at the same time, there was a lot of overlaying, because you would start with the trivium. Once you mastered that, and which, by the way, you used to master it about 150 years ago when they took it out. You used to master it about, you were really conversational by the age of maybe 7 or 8. By 10, you had a pretty good command of it. Once you were done with the trivium, you went into what was called the quadrivium. All of that is lost these days, and we can attain it again. But sending my kid off to school, and thank God William had the wherewithal, because he had an academic scholarship, and said, look, this is insanity. I can't do this. So guess what? Because he is an autodidact, where your interests lie? Well, man, I love farming. Okay, we're going to send you off to Australia. Okay, when you get back, let's send you off to Greg Judy. You get back, let's send you off to the Earthship Academy. Let's send you off to Joel Salatin. How is it the most successful people I know in this world that I've met have never once stepped foot through a college, through the doors of a college? In every single case of these highly successful people, almost all of them were autodidacts. Every last one of them. And I know a person in my family that has more degrees than a thermometer, but ain't got no common sense. And what is that worth? I mean, what is that so-called education worth if you go there and you lose your common sense in the process? To me, it isn't worth that so-called degree. That it's not worth anything. So at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, going back to this education, like John said, I don't think I've heard anybody say it any better. I think it's malicious. I think they have the worst of intentions. And if at the end of the day, these parents, not parents, but if these teachers don't have a fundamental, if they are turning you into a robot instead of turning you into an autodidact, they're probably not fit to be called an educator, in my view.
So in fourth grade, I had a teacher named Miss Hume. Fast forward, when my son was in fourth grade, he had the same teacher, and the curriculum was completely different for social studies, vastly different. Fast forward to my next son, he had the same teacher, right? She's got to be 80 years old. The curriculum had changed again. If you look at kids' curriculum right now, it doesn't say anything about the Holocaust. They're not, like, literally World War II is not even a paragraph. Vietnam's not even in the books. It doesn't exist. The history is being changed. It's just, it's programming. They're not teaching these kids to think. And when the kids do question, they are punished for it because they are not following the structure of the programming.
My best teacher in high school walked in the room. She's probably one of 2 I remember, and wrote critical thinking on the board.
Yep. And they're few
so
and far
the teachers listening to this who do shit like that, stay in the system and keep doing it. You're going to get fired though eventually.
They will not allow them to stay in the public school system. They will not make it there. And think about it. They just made all these teachers take all the chemical experiment. Free thinking teachers, free thinking people, just like in law enforcement, just like in the military. Tennessee National Guard just kicked 1,000 people out that would not take the thing. who are they going to replace them with? They're going to hand pick, and they're going to, just like the FBI right now. All those people that wouldn't take that stuff, those are most likely people, that we pretty much align thought with wise. Those people are gone. That was a very easy way to get them out of there. Who are they replacing them? Who did Lori Lightfoot just hire? All those cops that wouldn't take the thing? She just hired all the yes men. Those are the dudes. Oh, cops won't knock on my door and take my guns. Those ones will. They absolutely will.
Yep. You know, it's funny you bring up Lightfoot. I bet she hired Luke Skywalker and the other Star Wars characters, because isn't she really Commander Akbar in Star Wars?
Beetlejuice.
Cold-blooded, but I can't stand that. I can't stand that little troll. Anyway,
okay, here's another one. Freedom-minded versus backyard chickens are cute. That's what they're saying is the difference between Self-Reliance Festival and other homesteading conferences. Did you guys see that Joel Salatin just launched a whole new video course on just getting started with homesteading? Yesterday, I think it was.
Because Joel has touched everybody.
Yeah.
On the fringes, and now Joel has to pull because it's what's hot right now.
Yeah.
Joel needs money. Joel, just like us, does not hate money. What is the easiest money to get right now? There is fear, and that is the easiest thing to build off of. We never started this for money. Shit, we're still not making money at it.
It'd be really nice to this time, though. So get your tickets, guys. And notice that there's a VIP level ticket that gets you a t-shirt, access to the recordings, and you get to park on the SOE compound. So that's the VIP ticket, in case you're wondering what that is. Commercial over.
No, I don't think it should be. I think, I've been telling everybody. I was on the phone with another YouTuber before I got on here. Actually, two of them over the last couple of days. And I'm basically telling anybody I know that has the mindset, this festival may not be for you based on what we just talked about. We were talking, if you're not a person that wants to think for yourself, you're probably not going to find joy here. You're really not. If you're a person that wants to go through life as a robot, this isn't for you. As far as the education and stuff goes, Mark Twain wrote about it extensively, talking about, there's education and then there's training. There's a difference between the two. And then you take somebody like Ben Franklin. I read his biography. Ben Franklin doesn't even recall when he learned to read. He didn't have any formal education. He and all the other founding fathers and a lot of the women that were married to the founding fathers, like Abigail Adams, that was married to John Adams, they were all autodidacts. They were all self-taught. They were just kind of given like, okay, here you go, little ducky, out in the little world. We gave you the basic things you need. Now go carve your own path, because experience is the best teacher. You can't Google experience, right? So the same methodology, how is it we were able to produce a generation from all these people that signed that Declaration of Independence? And yeah, I know there's controversy about this and that, about what kind of people they might have been. But at the end of the day, they were autodidacts. Most of them did not have formal education. In fact, a great many of them were farmers. So we have a lot of overlap. And that's where I feel as a farmer, perhaps even a yeoman farmer, I feel like that I can relate to these people in some kind of way. And also a person who understands the trivium, or at least has a functional knowledge of it. That's one thing where, Nicole and John, I'm not sure everybody out there is cut out to go to a festival like this. Because if you think this is just going to be one of those ones where where you don't feel at least some level of challenging by the person that's standing on stage there, or maybe you might be offended because somebody used a word that some British aristocrat called profanity, then it may not be the thing for you. I frankly have no problem in overlooking just about any of that stuff in favor of knowing the interactions and the friendships and the education I'm going to pull away from it. So that's what's going to keep me coming back. And honestly, it's a joy. We're also doing like legit projects. Like last time we literally butchered a pig that was alive and ate it the very next day.
Hey, you want to do a lamb too this time?
We're already going to be doing a swale.
Like, no, I don't. People are like, what are you processing this time? I'm like, nothing.
But then again, John likes the killing because it is so fulfilling.
Who's running the lamb class? If you heard this and you want to, get in touch with me, Renegade Butcher.
I've got 50. I got 50 Cornish crosses here that are the size of turkeys right now.
Wow.
Those same ones?
So John's got chickens that gotta go. Are they going to still be there in 6 weeks?
Fuck, I hope not.
They're going to be turkeys.
If those are Cornish
eating
crosses, man, you're going to start losing them after a while, man. They'll start having heart attacks and stuff if you let them go for too much longer. Unless you,
yeah, I mean, we get to same with the rabbits, right? You get to a point where the feed in does not meet, right? They've already topped out, so you just have expensive pets at that point.
Yeah, I have a goat like that right now.
Yeah, you should shoot that.
No, the other one's getting shot, but there's a second goat that isn't. She's so cuddly. She does eat the weeds. So do the sheep, though. So now I have a problem.
Montana's got a cat, and there's always something wrong with this cat, right? Vet,
Yeah.
this, that. I'm like, I'll drown that thing for free. And I've got another one that literally looks just like it, that doesn't have any shit wrong with it, and it's nice. Like I'll just swap you. Like I'll handle the other one. They just.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Just to finish the Joel Salatin thought. So he launches this course. It's 17 hours of training materials and a net like Q&A. So it's like a legitimate course. $1,000. First comment. Must be nice for people to be able to pay this much for it. Blah, blah, blah. You're an asshole for charging so much. I'm like, that's cheap for 17 hours of video. Like, I don't know. People, so I was just like, I know what goes into creating that 17 hours. So
when you find that dude, like when you find that person on the internet, and it's not hard, right?
Yeah.
Because they post it as their name. When you click their name, you can see a lot of times, whichever platform, you can see other comments they've made. Yeah. Many of their comments are just like that. And if you find them on social media, they've got two or three cars. They've got a house that's bigger than ours. They have
put your avocado toast back.
Yeah.
By the course.
Yeah. So whatever. I mean, and the deal like with Self-Reliance Festival, we're not going to get more than 1,000 people on the property. Like that's capacity. It's not going to happen. So as we add people and add more value and the price goes, I mean, we already hear it now. I don't know if I want to come out, $75. I was going to bring
wait till next year.
I was going to bring my group out. Well, maybe you motherfuckers should go do some fucking mow some lawns on the weekend. I mean, how many dollars do you make a minute? If you don't make dollars a minute, you're looking at your shit wrong. Scale.
I go to a lot of these things, and you're not going to find a better value. But as far as Joel, think about this. I consider a mentor. I make no bones about the fact that, I have the highest regard for Joel Salatin. And I think that's rather cheap, like Nicole said. When you consider the fact, I mean, this Self-Reliance Festival, for what you get there is an enormous value. People complain about Greg Judy charging too much money for his course. Frankly, for the pig butchery class, Nicole, you probably, if you were commensurate with what was going on or what a typical class like that would charge, you were about $250 lower than what you could have, that the going rate was. $1,000 to get taught by Joel Salatin. If you just learned one thing, okay, I talked about Joel earlier with the pigs. If you just learned one thing regarding your pigs from Joel Salatin, he saved you thousands and thousands of dollars in doing it wrong. All these different ways, like in terms of how he runs his pigs.
How many ways can you kill a pig? Many.
Yes. Or the chickens. You may get that from Joel. So I'm not going to hear it. Right now, Michelle and I won't say what it is just yet because I want to be absolutely sure of this thing before I say anything about it. Right now, we are paying for an online course to take our understanding. I got to be very cryptic about how I say this, but for each of us to go to this course, we're talking almost $6,000 a piece.
Yep.
Okay. And that's a piece. That's not like, that's the retail rate for this course. And like I said, I'm not going to tell everybody what it is just yet. But when it's all said and done,
I'm on it.
6,000 a piece. What on earth just happened here?
I blocked somebody.
Well, a bunch of nude stuff jumped
New
up.
dating site just came to the podcast, to the live feed for 2 seconds till I blocked them.
Okay, so that's man. What was I even talking? Oh yeah, this course, So here it
It
is.
worked.
We got a course that will honestly take my understanding at just one small aspect of all the business enterprises we have going on. It is going to take that and it is going to put an exclamation point on it, to the point where it will take people years to catch up. So is that worth it? We're talking $6,000 is the retail cost a piece, and we're paying it. We save money for this. I don't go out and spend money on vacations like a lot of the people I know. I don't go on vacation. If I go on a vacation, it's going to one of these festivals, and I'll make it a party with a purpose, where me and William were hanging out into the wee hours at the same Airbnb with Nicole and Tactical, hanging out the days with John and the rest of the group, and we're just so filled and fulfilled at the same time. That's my kind of vacation. But meanwhile, I'm saving money. Like John said, I'm taking whatever money I have and I'm reinvesting it into making more money and getting better understanding. So $1,000 for Joel, look, and I'm paying $6,000 for somebody that has 1/100th of the knowledge and notoriety of a Joel Salatin. Look, you're getting off easy, nephew.
There's levels. There's levels to this shit, right? And as soon as you're at a level, another door opens, because you have to achieve that level before somebody invites you in, right? The people that you think control the government don't control the government, right? They don't know who that is until they are in government. And that's how everything is. I was just invited to a thing in Salt Lake City. It's going to take place in an aircraft hangar, as well as one of the guys from Diesel Brothers. His house is on a mountain, right? So they're doing, a friend of mine and him are doing this deal. And the only name that they threw out was John Willis. Wouldn't it be cool if John Willis would come out to this? But I think he's like a super prepper, and I don't think he even gets on an airplane. These guys all have their own airplanes. I would go to this. It's October 1st. I can't go to this because I'm doing Self-Reliance Festival. Ed Milet is speaking. The cost to get Ed Milet out there for one day to speak, and he's only going to talk for 1 hour, and then he's going to be in the crowd for 6 hours, is $100,000. That's what they're paying Ed to come out and speak. Andy Frisella is coming out. There's a bunch of huge names. I am the lowest on the totem pole, but I'm the only name they threw out there. If you're not willing to spend money to make money, you don't have any idea what can be achieved. You have no clue. When you go to one of these things, and I'm not trying to sell our thing. I'm the worst dude to sell my shit. I'm almost impossible to even do business with. But when you go to these things, you have to go and just listen, because there's always one thing you can implement that is hugely scalable. So if you go to Joel's thing, right? If you think, oh, $1,000 is so much, beg, borrow, or steal, go to his thing, and then put together your own bullshit version and charge $250. And if you believe $1,000 is too much, there's a bunch of other simple-minded people like yourself that will buy your $250 mediocre course. You should do that. Like, if you can't afford $1,000, figure out how to do it and make, $250 from 1,000 people. There's do you know who the spammer's back? Do you know who Dan Pena is? Dan Pena, little white-haired dude, always wears a suit, right? The $4 billion man. He gives a course. He has a course. To go to his course, it's $26,000. You go to his island, to his castle in Scotland. The dude grew up where Snoop Dogg grew up, right? He was right in Long Beach, California. White boy, now he's in Scotland in a castle. He gives these motivational and business courses. He used to find people and he would give them a discount, like inner city youth. He would help them out, give away courses. And his performance rate was about 45%, right? Only 45% of these people actually made $1 million in the next year. He stopped giving his courses away, and he charges 26 to 28 grand now, and he has 100% completion, because the man that is willing to beg, borrow, or steal $28,000, he is going to perform. He has already executed in that he has found the funding to go to it, and he's going to be 100% performance. The other side of that is you have rich kids and trust fund kids who are their money's making money anyways. So you're going to have a success rate. If Joel did that, like I get it. I understand it. Do
I
your
think
own.
he's selling it for cheap because if you take, we ran into the same thing when it came to Jeff Lawton. When Michelle, Jeff Lawton's permaculture design course is at that time, it was well over $2,000. And, I don't care. No journey is too great when you find what you're looking for. It ain't about the money for me. I've been technically retired since I was 49 or 48, really. Could have been 10 years earlier had I met John and Nicole long before then. But the point being is that it's not even about the money. It's about the freedom. It's about personal growth in areas. And for the longest time, I thought, man, I feel alone in this world. But when you take something like a Jeff Lawton course, it takes your understanding. Not all permaculture designers like Pena. Not all teachers are the same. Getting a Jeff Lawton permaculture certificate is like the Cadillac. No. It's like the Ferrari of permaculture design certificates. And it's worth every dime. I know.
There's a question about PDCs. Anybody know a good PDC course near mid-Missouri?
You can find one now. As far as online things, School of Permaculture, you still got that one out there. Jeff Lawton is opening his up.
Yeah, he does digital courses every year. He launches one, I'm pretty sure.
And it's the best course out there, even though you don't have the benefit. Now, when you go and get your certificate from him, I promise you, if you think this is some crackerjack thing, I got news for you. Because, it's a grueling thing. And you're going to earn it. But at the end of it, you were taught by the best on the planet. Why do you think we sent William to go work with the best on the planet? Better still, he paid for it himself. When I say we basically looked after things till he got back. And then he gets back, cross-trains his old man and his mom. And with this training that we're now getting, where, 6 G's ain't nothing to sneeze at, you dig? But I will find the money. I will beg, borrow, like John said, beg, borrow, and steal. The thing is, I'm a pretty good saver, and I'm a pretty good earner, and I've made some really good decisions. I've made some bad ones too. But my education has never really been one of them. But this is I'm 6 G's deep on my end, 12 G's total. What I'm saying is the value is 12 G's roughly, probably more really. That value, how on earth do you justify it into one small aspect of what it is you do? Well, thanks to some of that stuff I learned from John, who led me to other people. I'll leave it up to John to tell you about that. I realized, you know what? Why am I sitting here worried about this over here, that over here, that over here? I'm going to be like a laser beam on this one thing, and I'm going to get real good at it. I'm going to be the best at it. And as soon as I'm right here in this mic, I guarantee you, I will be the best at what it is I put my brain to. Always have been. Because I'm determined to get it done.
Even if you half-assed it, you could immediately make 10 times that, even if you didn't do it at a higher level. This deal, it's $1,000 to walk in the door, the deal in Utah we're talking about, right? The VIP the night before is $4,800 to be at the VIP the night before. And it's and the way I thought and what they said, if you can't afford $4,800, we get it. We want it to be intimate. You're going to have access to these people. If you're around these people and can't make $4,800, the next, if you can't implement something or at least some motivation, we can't help you. You're in the wrong crew. You cannot be helped because you're going to have a car. Hey, what do you do? Hey, I make backpacks. Hey, my kid needs some backpacks. My kid's school, we want to do backpacks for all of my kids' school. We want 400 of them. Okay. It's just networking, man. When you get around performance people, they perform. They do. When we were talking about putting the showers in here, we're putting 2 showers over here. Somebody walked up the next day and hey, do you want me to take a look at these showers? I'm we're already done, man. It's already happened. We already had that conversation that night. It's already on paper. It's already in motion. Thank you. We already did it. They're holy shit, that was fast. I'm yeah, because if you don't, it won't happen.
It won't happen.
When I have an idea, when I say this, I think people think I'm kidding. When I have an idea, I have to stop right then what I'm doing, voice to text it, and then message it to 5 other people. And one of them's Amanda, because she's going to be what was that bullshit you sent me at 1:00 in the morning last night? Oh, I don't know. Let me look, right? It's going to remind me. That's where our shirts come from. That's what I just did it to you, Billy, with the new shirt idea. Like, I have to put it out so that other people ask me about it. If you don't act right, then you got 30 seconds. If you're not willing to do it in 30 seconds, you're not going to fucking do it.
I totally agree. But that's part of there was a guy with a lot of sense. We know that said, we know the price of everything and the value of nothing. And I fully agree. In fact, that probably ought to be on a shirt, probably in quotes, because I really believe that. I mean, it's funny how there was a guy I knew growing up in Oklahoma. He would spend every waking hour trying to figure out the next truck he was going to buy. Meanwhile, he's got a son who is a step away, went through the school system, was indoctrinated by these weirdos, and was about a second away from putting a bullet in his brain. Can't get him to read a book dealing with this very thing, but you'll read cover to cover about some idiotic truck you intend to buy. So we have everything displaced. And that's why I'm saying my level of association has elevated. I'm not trying to downplay anybody. And I think, John, you said it best, is that there's doors along the way in your journey. And for the longest time, I'm like, man, is there anybody out there that has these same values, that thinks the same way? And then you get to that door. Well, it's the same thing with your education. I think it is anyway. And if I got to spend like I said, to get that knowledge from Joel Salatin, it killed me. At the last festival I was at with Joel, you ain't going to believe this. Here it is, arguably, probably the most, there's probably not another farmer on planet Earth that has motivated more people to farm than Joel Salatin. I don't even think there's a close second. Okay, so I'm at a place where Joel Salatin is there. People complained about the price of the tickets, which were like $60, if even that. I don't even think, in fact, I think it was free. When Joel did this keynote that night, and there must have been at least during the day, there may have been 5, maybe 1,000 people. I kid you not, he gave everybody that had a YouTube channel, he gave them a little bit of time, and a lot of them took more time than they expected. Hey, I'll sit down with you and do whatever media. Very, very gracious with his time. Thousands of people there, and when he did his keynote address, there might have been 25 people there.
Yep.
William and I, and after it was all said and done, because I've gotten to know Joel a little bit, and it's one of the great joys of my life, because this man to me is a hero in so many different ways. You had thousands of people there. William is starving. People we know said, we're hungry, we're going to leave. And I'm like, literally, you have arguably the guy who has literally wrote the book on so many different things that I've adapted a lot of his methods into what we do. This guy, if you're serious about homesteading and farming, here he is doing the keynote address, and there's 25 people in the freaking audience. And you tell me you're serious about being a homesteader? Ain't buying it. If you weren't in that audience, and then there was an exchange I had with Joel when it was all over. I'm literally talking to this lady who's asking something about whatever she needed done. And as I'm here, I'm literally talking to her, having this conversation. On my back, at least 5 or 6 times, I feel this hand. And it felt like an anvil, like Thor's hammer laying on my back. I look around, and then sure enough, it's Joel Salatin himself, patting me on the back. And to me, man, it was like looking up, because I've looked up to him for the longest time. I had talked to him before then, and had the benefit of all the YouTubers that were out there interviewing him. William and I'm just going to say it. If it pisses somebody off, it's better to be pissed off than pissed on. So of all the YouTubers that he gave all that time to, William and I were the only ones left at the end of that event. And I think he knew it. And so he came up patting me on the back, and he wanted to talk. And it was a private conversation. I'm not going to tell everybody here right now, but I'm reasonably sure that conversation yielded something that's going to pay dividends, probably in the festival that we plan to have in the near future. But I stayed till the end. Of all the people there, honestly, our numbers on YouTube would probably account for all the other YouTubers that were there combined. So how is it, of that group of YouTubers, The ones who probably had the greatest numbers were the only ones that stuck around to the end to hear a guy that I heard speak probably 10 times prior. Why would I do that? Because there's value, and I would have paid money, just like we paid money to send William to go to his farm. I would have paid money to get that, to have the advantage of being in the room with that great man. And so if you think it's not worth it to spend whatever little meager amounts of money that it takes to go to some of these festivals, then frankly, you shouldn't be there. That's honestly how I feel about it.
Conspire. It means to breathe together. Who better to breathe with than Joel Salatin? I went to Rogue Food I'm getting chills right now just talking about it. I went to Rogue Food Conference because Joel was there in Nashville. That's the closest he had been. And it was probably the closest chance I was going to have to meet Joel. Didn't know what I was going to. Walked in. Joel was out front, right? He's literally the first person you see, and he's writing down in his journal. And I said, you've got to be the top of your game in this industry. I said, and do you still feel that you have to take notes? He goes, let me tell you something. He goes, I never know what I'm going to talk about until I meet you. I'm going to talk to you out here, and then I know what you need to know, and that's what I'm going to talk about. I go, so you're telling me you don't know what we're talking about? You don't know what your topic is? He said, absolutely not. Until I meet the people coming through the door, that's why I am out here. And Neethi, he was sitting there with Neethi, right? And she's a little bulldozer, so you can't talk to anybody without talking to Neethi. Had I not gone, I wouldn't know Neethi. I wouldn't have met Joel. I wouldn't have met Trisha. I wouldn't have met Liz, who are dear friends now. So I walked up to Joel, and I basically burglarized his conversation for a few minutes. And I heard him say, yeah, we can deliver 2,000 tons of cow, every month. And I thought, holy shit, like that's a lot of meat, right? But when I spoke to him, I said, look, man, I came out here to meet you. And I go, I'm drawn to you, as I'm sure a lot of people are. And I feel that something in my life is missing. And I don't know what that is, but I know that I need to do something different than what I'm doing now. And it's really going to turn my life upside down to do it. But I feel like I need to. I said, you have no idea who I am. I said, but I'm going to do something on such a level that you and I in the near future are going to do something together. And he said, awesome. I will be looking for that. And we're about to, like, that's about to happen. We are about to do something with Joel. And I don't know what he thought it was going to be, and I don't really know what I thought it was going to be, but that's a lot of what you've seen. That's the catalyst to the things that I have done different over the last 2 years. Nicole was there as well at that event.
You know what's funny also, John, is that had I not stuck around to the very end, and even with the tiniest glimpse, man, I mean, I'm a 50-year-old man, and I'm saying, hey, why don't you let me carry that bag for you? Okay, I'll carry it if it means I get your ear for 20 seconds.
Yep.
Wouldn't you do that?
Yep.
But I'm sitting here. I'm like, hey, let me get that bag for you. And me and William are there. Had I not stuck around to the very end, and I mean to the end, and William was over here. He only eats once a day, but he was as hungry as a runaway slave, man. He was out there dying, and other people had left. Everybody was new around there. Some people had to go. But by and large, 25 people out of 1,000 to hear this great man. And, it's funny because had I not stuck around to the very end, I would have not had the pleasure or had the opportunity that has probably emerged from all that. And it might even tie into what John's talking about. But had I not stuck around there and stayed to the very end, I guess, what should I expect? In the Bible, there was a guy who sold a birthright for a bowl of soup. But I am not going to pass up the opportunity. If they would have said, if Joel would have actually said to me, hey, I'm going to need $500 right now to talk to me for the 20 minutes that I'm about to give you, I'd have broke bread, nephew. I mean it. I would have reached in my pocket and said, look, I'll pay you double. Yeah. To have the opportunity, to have the advantage of his wisdom is worth every dime, but we keep thinking in these very small boxes. That is worth more to me. It was like people, when I was becoming a butcher, people thought I was out of my mind because I was out there working for free. Well, it didn't take but 2 months before I'm outperforming the people that have been doing the job for 2 years because I was so motivated. They were calling me And I was taken off of my regular job to go there and learn how to do sausage the way a Michelin star chef would, because that's who was teaching me to make every ounce of charcuterie the way that a Michelin star chef would. Meanwhile, all these nimrods that were in there just trying to make, the next picture, standing in front for the next selfie or whatever to their hipster friends, they missed this golden opportunity, but it wasn't wasted on me. And I was the only guy in there working for free. Just like I stayed around when I didn't have to, even though I was late getting home, but sticking around to have the ear of somebody like a Joel Salatin is worth more than any dollar amount you could ever put on it. So sorry to beat a dead horse, but if you're complaining about Joel, I might buy the course because I have that much regard for him. And because
Absolutely.
I might get just that much, something that might matter in my everyday life that to me is worth $100,000.
No, I'm probably going to buy it. That is my plan. When I saw that, I've been homesteading 15 years, and I will learn so many things from that will make life easier here. No question.
And just to support. I mean, I super chat friends all the time. Just thank you. How many people watch Salatin on content and don't send a super chat or don't do shit, right? For the people saying they didn't know who Salatin was, he's been on Joe Rogan, I think 7 times. If you just type in on YouTube Salatin and Rogan, there are some great interviews that are kind of at a high level, not laser focused on any one topic, but some great interviews with Rogan and Salatin.
Fantastic man. I mean, I learned about him when he was on John Stossel, and I basically got in, and when I told him that, he was like, what? And the funny thing about it, he's like, man, that was a long, long time ago. I'm like, dude, it was your politics that drove me through to you long before it was your farming. And, he's since, changed the way he goes about things, and that's fine. I completely understand. But it really doesn't matter. If that was the hook that got me in there, it led me into some pretty astonishing places. And I remember telling him, I said, Joel, first time I met you, I went up to you because honestly, and I think this really ought to be on a shirt, the most empowering thing that got me out of the mire in my life was something Joel Salatin said. And I've said it a million times probably by now, that if it's worth doing poorly, then it's worth, if it's worth doing, then it's worth doing poorly at first. That gave me license to fail. That gave me license to do things that I thought were undreamed of. And it was that great man that equipped me with that gave me that courage to go out there despite the screwed up way in which I grew up and all the abuse and all that nonsense. It allowed me to take whatever burdens I thought I had, whatever hangups I had about fear of failure, I didn't care anymore. And the guy that got me off and running was Joel. Well, I saw him years later, and it was curious because I went up to him, I said, Joel, and Michelle said the same thing to him in her own way. I wasn't there, but she told me about it. And I went up, I said, do you have any idea the impact you had on my life? Do you know what you did for me? And he didn't say anything, dude. It was bizarre. I mean, I said it to him twice. And one of them was a pig class that I took from him. And he didn't remember me either time. And in fact, I don't even think he remembered me the last time I met him. But anyway, I said, dude, do you have any idea the impact you had on my life? And he just looks at me with this 1,000-yard stare and a smile. Not a 1,000-yard stare. He looked at me and he smiled. He didn't say anything either time. And I thought that was bizarre. It wasn't off-putting. It was just, all right, cool. Anyway, thank you. And I'm going to move on. Last time I saw him, I said this to him. I don't know if he remembers me or not, but I'm pretty hard to forget these days. If I meet somebody, believe me, you're going to remember I was there. I guarantee it. You're going to know I left my mark. And I went up to him this time. I said, hey, Joel. And nobody was talking to him. Like John was saying, he was at this festival and just kind of out there. He was standing at this booth. I'm like, dude, I guess everybody's afraid to go up and talk to him. Well, I guarantee he put his pants on the same way I did. I went up to him. I said, hey, Joel. I went up to him, and I don't know if he remembers this or not. I had bone sauce in one hand, and I had comfrey salve in the other. He had this big wound on his hand. I said, this here is for your comfrey, is for your wound. It's comfrey salve my wife makes. And I said, this is bone sauce. It's this bone sauce is the world's best deer repellent. We make it at my farm. And then he looks at the label on there, and on the bottle it says, "This stuff kicks buck." And he got a real kick out of that. In fact, I was a class clown in one of his classes before, where he got up there. He says, he's opening up his slide. He says, "Okay, where do pigs come from?" And I said, "Storks." And I remember he had this gut laugh. I mean, I made him laugh. Well, anyway, I went up to him this time and I said, "Joel," I said, "the last 2 times I said something to you. I know you don't remember. You meet a lot of people, but I'm going to say it to you differently this day." I said, "Joel, I came up and I said to you, you changed my life." I said, "Now, because of you, there are people coming up to me saying this at this festival. These people are coming up to me at this festival, and they're telling me that I changed their lives. And I don't know what to say." I honestly said that to him. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. I said, "Dude, there are people coming up to me, and of course I feel totally unworthy. People are coming up to me at this festival saying I changed their lives. And when I said it to you, you didn't respond." And he just looked at me. And it was funny as I'll get out, because he just looked at me and he still didn't say nothing. He had this weird, uncomfortable silence. I want to say it was for 3 or 4 seconds. It felt like an eternity. And he says, "Now you know why." That's what he said to me. He said, "Now you know why. What do you say?" And honestly, to this day, when people come up and do this hero worship, I don't like it. I don't know what to do, but I now know what it felt. And he started this for me.
It's not hero worship though, right? What do you give a man like Joel Salatin? What do we have to offer him other than that?
Yeah, and the other thing is, how do you feel knowing that somebody has taken control of their life because of something you said?
Yeah.
That's the biggest payday any of us can get. I don't care if you never say it to me. I don't care if you never buy my coffee or whatever, all of these things we promote. You tell me that made, okay, it was worth being up in the middle of the night writing podcast notes, or it was worth figuring out how to rearrange things so I could get this one interview locked in, or any of those things that we do. Sometimes you're in the middle of that going, "This is hard. Why am I doing this?" And then somebody says that, you're like, "That's why I'm doing this." And
Yeah.
You're right. It's hard to know what to say to that, but it's also like, people who say things like that I think they should keep saying it. And Dreaming Tree Farmstead, my challenge to you is to come to Self-Reliance Festival or another event that has people you're afraid to get your pictures taken with, and just freaking get your picture taken. Like, that's something I'd like to say. People are not sure how to behave around personalities, like leaving Joel alone when you could be talking to him. He's there to talk to people. Anybody at these events are actually quite approachable. And if they're not, they're probably not somebody you should be listening to. So getting your picture with somebody, because that was cool. I got my picture with Joel Salatin in Oklahoma City at an event in 2015 for the first time. Next time he saw me, he had no idea who I was. That's fine. I've got that picture to this day. And I was like, I'm going to get it while I can. Like, why not? He's somebody I admire.
I still got an interview. I got an interview that I did with him that I still haven't posted yet. I don't know what I'm waiting for. It's just, I knew that I did a lousy job of it, because it's like, for me, I'm interviewing somebody that I have the highest regard for, somebody that's literally changed my life. And so in those interviews, you kind of stumble on yourself. You don't feel good about it. I'll probably have to release it one of these days, but it was, I just don't know what to say, because that's why he left that 3-second pause in there. I said, "Dude, there are people saying that to me right here at this festival." And he says, "Yeah, what do you say when people say that to you?" And I still ain't comfortable with, I don't know. I just know the full extent of my ignorance, and I know the full extent of my flaws, and I don't like it. But man, if I'm doing anything to help anybody else in this world, man, thank you. But there ain't ever going to be another Joel Salatin. I really don't see anybody else having the kind of impact and doing more things that have done more to help this world. That's why when these idiots were calling him a racist, I wanted to strangle them. I even came out, in fact, to my knowledge, I was the only person that came out in his defense that had a YouTube channel. I came off the top rope of the idiot that did it. And by the way, yeah, all of a sudden he's gone now. So when he came out calling him a racist, I found it appalling. And I was, ugh. I don't even have the words for it. But no, what a racist. So anybody out there, any of you black folks that may be in the feed, if you're believing that garbage, it's garbage. And you need to get over it, because I know that there were some people actually believing that nonsense. Like I said, if he's such a racist, why did he go out of his way to take me under his wing more than once? So rethink it.
How old is Joel?
I think he's pushing 65 if he's not there already. And he's sharp. He's still sharp. He's always going to be sharp.
Yeah.
But when I was in an email between him and Neethi, we all had an email exchange. That traveling, I think, takes a little bit of toll on him.
I'm sure it does.
Because, well, especially now, he was telling me that when he doesn't drink the water from his farm, that it's like life-giving to him. Like and I'm sure that it is. You know, he's done everything you should do to replenish the aquifer. It's probably the best water on the planet. And he said, look, Billy, if I don't drink this water here, man, when I get back after traveling, especially as long as I did, I get back here and I just spend days drinking water, doing nothing else but drinking water.
People underestimate the amount of symbiosis you have with your land as you're working it over time. Just from the plants you grow, there is research, and I need to go find it because I can't give the reference right now, out that as you're cultivating the plants, they're sensing vitamin deficiencies and demanding that from the soil through their roots. And so when you're raising your own food on your own land, what happens over time is it realizes, oh, this person needs more selenium or whatever it is, and they'll pull that up. So it does not surprise me that he is completely adapted to his water, especially if it's not city water, which I'm sure it's not. Well, I know it's not. And, you know, that your land comes into tune with you. That's part of, I think that's a part of homesteading that gets ignored a lot, is there's this like not very easy to explain spiritual layer that comes with stewarding land, where you start being more healthy there. And when you're gone from it, it definitely takes a toll.
Joel was really, I think there's even more than that going on. And, you know, it's funny you bring that up, Nicole, because when I was talking about spending all this money, Michelle and I, it's for precisely that reason. In the pantheon of all the things that are involved in permaculture, we were spending lots and lots of money for just one tiny thing of it. Number one, it's because we enjoy it. Number two is that if there's that one little thing that can put me to the next level in terms of my understanding, then I'm a fool to not jump at it. If all you require is money, I'll get money. Okay, if that's what it requires for me to get to the next level, because in the pantheon of things that are important to me, the first thing I look for and the last I find over all these years that I've been on this planet is good conversation. Really. It's the first thing I look for in the room and the last I find, until I found the group of people that I find at places like Self-Reliance, where it's me and John talking about some pretty esoteric stuff, or Nicole over here schooling me on just how much of a dope and a nincompoop I am concerning certain levels of farming that she is really good at when it comes to, like, you know, things that Nicole is an astonishing person in so many different ways, but we all complete one another in the areas where we don't know. Like, I'm getting drummed up on business from John. Well, I'm an expert in certain things when it comes to permaculture, and I'm helping him out. Nicole knows that I'm a walking nincompoop when it comes to tech, so she will do a C-spot run book of how I should do something to help out, unless she's talking to William. So, folks, do you see this trifecta? Do you see how we benefit? And then Nicole's helping out John and me. I'm helping out Nicole in some way that I don't yet know, but I'm also helping out John, and John is helping us all out. So it's this beauty of a symbiosis that we get on. And then, of course, there's other nodes of this. It's not just a clover. There's 15 other nodes that all coexist with each one of us, and we have that same relationship. And we're building, like Matt and Gabby down at Homestead for a Living. I met Nicole because of them, and I still have that relationship with them. And now I have a business relationship with them. So I have all these different nodes going all around that could not have ever happened had I not stepped out that front door and taken the effort to go do something that I wasn't really crazy about initially doing. After having done it, I'm like, oh man, this was fantastic. And then the more I do it, the more people I meet. You know, being at John's place, I met a guy who did one of the most viral videos of all time. And I was actually in the room with that dude, man. And how cool, it was just a casual, he has a beard now. I didn't know that, but one of the coolest videos out there. And by the way, John, as soon as I left there, I put that video on. But that's what you get to meet. That's the people you meet. That's the quality and character of the people you meet when you go to things like this. And frankly, I can't wait.
Yeah, the thing I like about the culture of the Self-Reliance Festival is it's a bunch of people, some of whom are higher performing than others. Doesn't matter, no judgment, interacting on a human level. And it's not about this star or that star attractant of the event. It's like, we're here. Everybody has something to learn from somebody here, and everybody who thinks they don't have something to teach is wrong. And we do that every time. It's like, well, what do you do for a living? Oh, you're a welder. Who wants to learn how to weld here? Hands go up. There's a lot of people underestimate the value they have, and then they build this headspace. But when we cut through that shit, that's what happens. We start having these nodes and pods of different projects happening and overlap, and it's a great way for a community to develop. People who are wondering about that plant research, Xavier Hawk is the person who I talked to that linked me up with that. And he is going to be on next Wednesday with us at 12:30. So I'm going to make sure he knows I'm going to start asking him about that on the next live stream.
Not only that, he'll be at Self-Reliance Festival.
Yes, he will. He just gave me his title.
That was really what was cool there with the unexpected surprises I saw at Self-Reliance Festival too. And really the things like even at that last, I met the internet dude. I don't know if he'd be okay with me saying his name because frankly,
you talking about Dana?
The guy that did that hot, crazy Matrix?
That's Dana McClendon. Yeah, that's my lawyer.
Okay. I didn't know he was your lawyer. That part I didn't know. But actually, it wasn't at Self-Reliance. It was at the Swale class that I met him. And I'm like, dude, that is one of the cleverest, funniest videos of all time. I've watched that thing. Every guy I know has watched that thing. It is hilarious. And it's those little surprises like that. It's all these nodes of knowing that, man, the Rolodex that I have mentally of the people I know that I may not know this answer, but I'll bet Nicole does. I don't know this answer, but I bet John does. And being able to contact them, and it's not just them, it's the other people that I met there that I now know. Look, check this out. Here's a prime example. We went out horseback riding yesterday, okay? And we very seldom get out and do things as a family like that. But my daughter-in-law, and my niece, this is something they really wanted to do. So we go horseback riding in the mountain. Well, I'm picking up the rear. Believe it or not, look, they put me on the one draft horse there. They got Michelle on a mule, Williams on an old nag, and I get a draft horse. I'm like, y'all trying to point out something here? So we're going through there, but the guy, the trail hand that's leading this whole thing is picking up the rear. Start talking to this dude. Come to find out, this guy is or at least he says he is. We're about to find out because I'm going to be learning under him. He tans hides. That's the one area of butchery that I don't know anything about.
Awesome.
Wanting to get. But just by talking to this dude, he's all about wild foraging. As we're going along, he's telling me about all the wild foraging, that's going along on this trail because he knows I'm interested. And then at the same time in this 2-hour trail ride, come to find out I made a business deal with this dude, possibly, to get him to not only teach me how to tan hides, but to do a class where he teaches multiple people because frankly, as a trail boss, I'm not sure how much he's making it, but I guarantee he's probably going to make more charging $400 a head. I don't keep the money. I just get the training out of the deal. I've been looking for this forever and a day, but that opportunity would not have happened if I didn't say, hey, bro, tell me about yourself. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have the opportunity right now to learn the one aspect of butchery I don't yet know. You pick the animal, I guarantee I can process it and I can make it look pretty. But I don't know what to do with the hide outside of composting it. I'm about to learn that because I've been wanting to learn it. And like John said, you know what? Now the opportunity just presented itself. How about that?
I just want to point out that Camden, Tennessee, where the Self-Reliance Festival is a 6-hour drive from Hattiesburg, Mississippi for this person. And if you're further southeast, add an hour.
I would like to point out that people come here from Canada, Australia, California, and New York.
Or you're starting your own because, as I said, that would be cool too.
You know, John, it's funny how you mentioned that. Canada, Australia, and then he lists the 2 other states that are actually like countries, California and New York. They might as well be other countries.
Because they're they're the extremes, you know?
Yeah. And Michael, thanks for the super chat. I missed one earlier saying thank you because we were on a thing, but thank you. I'm not sure whose channel got it, but somebody did.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I mean, like, do we need to like break this down into micros? Like, okay, John, here's $1 for you.
Yeah, YouTube will take 60% and then
Any super chat money I've gotten in the past is always going to Vets for Child Rescue. Oh, shoot. Okay, there goes the feed, y'all.
Why?
My bad.
What do you mean?
Last time I brought it up, I was with Bobby Spags.
Yeah.
Yeah, I brought that up, and then bam, they demonetized the whole feed right there.
Oh, that's okay.
Just by bringing that up. Of all the things in the world to talk about, we were raising money for them. We brought it up with Bobby, and bam, cut the feed.
You know, my philosophy on that whole thing with the censorship is at some point I'm going to get kicked off YouTube because if I let them tell me what to say, then I'm not very effective as a human being. So I don't care.
No, that's why we got a podcast now, the Permaculture Pimpcast.
Yeah.
The sun don't rise and set on YouTube for me, so I'll try to say what I can within reason. But we're also taking time to explore other avenues. That's where John has been a great help, and Nicole as well, as far as looking for other avenues. The Permaculture Pimpcast, that's another way. Some way or another, we're going to have, I don't care if it's smoke signals, we're going to have some means to get the question out there. As a little side note, somebody said Billy's HOA video is what got me hooked. I didn't do a video at HOA. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. About your animals that identify as something else. Yeah, you did. You talked about it. This ain't a chicken. That's my service bird. That's my support animal.
I wasn't at HOA.
Yeah, you did. You said how to get around the HOA and the Karens and
Like not Homesteaders of America.
Oh, okay. Oh,
HOA.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now.
Whatever that stands for the neighborhood
homeowners association.
Oh, okay. I dig it now. Man, my brain was totally screwed up.
Okay, here's a question about fencing that I can't answer, but I know who I would tell you to talk to. Fencing question. I'm having the darndest time finding a place for grounding rods every time I hit rocks or tree roots. Should I just grab a mallet and pound through the roots?
Okay. Well, as a journeyman electrician, I've dealt with this one a lot. If you get too big a problem, here's what you can do. If you're really in that, I've never found but 1, maybe 2 times in my life, I was unable to drive a ground rod. And I've done videos on it, and a lot of other electricians have tried to take me to task for it. Now, disclaimer, don't do it for anything other than your electric fencing. Here's what you do. You take your ground rod. Okay, imagine this toothpick right here, right? Imagine it's a ground rod. And if I put it in the right frame, it'd probably look like one, okay? So imagine that's your ground rod. Take it, make a little divot in the ground with it. Now take a bottle of water, put it in that hole that you made with that ground rod, push it as far as you can. And in fact, I don't even know if you can find the video. I know I've done at least 2 of them where I can take a 10-foot ground rod and just using water in that hole, run it back and forth and then push down as you go, back and forth, put more water in the hole. Do that over and over. I can drive a 10-foot ground rod down to ground in most cases. Now, if you're in one of those areas where it's too rocky or you only go so far and you're going to hit a rock layer, there is the other option where you can lay that ground rod horizontal. So you can dig out a foot of the ground. We've done it much deeper than that. In fact, in the desert in Middle East, we lay them horizontal and put salt water on top. If you're in one of those areas, you may have to add salt water to increase your ground conductivity, or in a place that hasn't had rain forever and a day. So you can lay those ground rods horizontally. And then what I like to do is a method called CAD welding, where you exothermically weld it on there, but it's really not that big a deal. You can lay that ground horizontally underground if you can't grind it or put it in vertically. So there's two really good methods, and I've done videos on both.
If we can't get 6 feet down, can we run 2 3s? Will that accomplish the same, or will it not?
In a place like yours, John, you may, because it was a gravel pit, whereas mine, I could put a single 3-foot rod in the ground, and I could cover everything for probably a mile from here. In your place, I would almost bet that you could easily do that. But when you do that, you want to make sure that they're 6 feet away from one another, and that you put some what's called soft drawn copper between them. Look, for in a system like that, you don't need it. It can be number 12 copper. Basically, you want to join those two and then have it go to your charger. So, yeah, you can accomplish the same thing that way. If you have a grounding issue when I'm out there, John, I can set up a system probably in 20 minutes. You can be anywhere on your property, and it won't be a problem.
We don't. I was just curious. We have equipment. I mean, if we can't get through it, we'll drill through it or, jackhammer through it.
But in your case, where there's so much rock, that might be one of those places where we'd want to lay it horizontally. And honestly, you even look at the little ground rods that they have for most of your Premier One kits. They might be 3-foot rods. If I don't even remember, but 6 foot is most. I'm putting 10 foot of rod in that ground half the time. Trust me, it is more than adequate to handle lots and lots of fence.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this person said they're getting 4 feet down. So
depending on where you live, I mean, if you haven't had rain in a while, but another little electrician's trick, and do not do it on your house, is literally taking a thing of salt water and putting it around your ground rod. And that usually solves the problem, at least for a little while. Because this is one of the big issues you have, like in the Middle East. We had a lot of guys getting Kentucky fried over there because of that reason. You're in the sand. Where are you going to drive a ground rod? So you'd have to do the best you could. And lots of salt water in that place. That ain't the only thing we left behind there. A lot of depleted uranium too. But trust me, a lot of salt water, and that's a whole nother story.
That tip alone was reason to listen to this entire live stream, because grounding rods and fencing are a thing for homesteaders. And I remember when I was learning how to do electric fencing for the first time, there was a lot of do what? And then somebody actually had to come show me.
If you're
then it made sense.
Check this out, Nicole. I've done this experiment. I've even done it on YouTube to prove that it can be done. I've taken those solar chargers. I'm not a big fan of them. Mm-hmm. If you're using it for a horizontal single fence, or let's say some poly wire, and you got a horse or a cow or something you want to keep in there, yeah, perfectly fine. But if you're running some poultry net out there, you're going to need more than a little pissant 0.25 joule solar charger to power that thing, okay? But what I have proven numerous times in the past is, believe it or not, in most climates, you can actually get away with this. Now, I'm not saying do this, but you know those stakes that you have on your electrified netting?
Yeah.
You can literally take the ground portion of your charger, clamp it to the foot of that thing, put it in the ground, and about 99% of the time, I have never done it a single time where it hasn't worked. Where the ground conductivity with just that 3 or 4 inches of shove-in stake that you put in the ground, if you clamp it on there, every single time that fence has worked perfectly fine. So the instruction they give you is actually an overkill a lot of times. Now, don't rely on that. You may need something a little more robust, but every single time I've run that thing out there, it's been more than sufficient.
What we have moved to here, where I have grid power, is above my perimeter fence is a wire, and it's sectioned so the whole thing is not hot all at once unless I want it to be. But we can move fencing around off of one charger on the property that has a really good ground rod in, and just tap that section in, and we don't have to move the charger. We just tap into that. And that means not constantly driving other ground rods other places or having stations. What Nick Ferguson recommends on a bigger property is at each of your four corners, if it's a square, have a ground rod to increase what you can. He's talking, actual 20-acre or 30-acre plots, is have intermittent ground rods that you can tap into.
If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I guarantee you, I can put a ground field in one location, and you could take those same 4 ground rods. I can make you depending on the location, of course, but in most locations, all I need to do is put in a ground field. I mean, as an electrician, this is what I do. I mean, it's what I've done for years. I would put number 6 soft drawn copper between each one of those ground rods and make it one giant ground field. And no matter where I am from that one location, now I always go back to the prepper's creed that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If you want to put it in these other locations, it's probably not a bad idea in that. But let's say you're running AC power, and that's all you have available out here. And in a lot of places, my favorite way of doing it, if somebody wants to know, is put a solar unit independent of a DC source. I can get everything. I can get all the punch. In fact, what I got the perimeter all the way around my property is a DC charger. And I can't remember what it is. And if you want the best charger made on planet Earth, don't buy anything made in the USA. Buy everything. And I fully agree with Greg Judy on this. The best the best fence chargers are made in New Zealand and Australia and Germany. I don't buy anything that didn't come from one of those places, because you're going to find out not only do they last longer, they last indefinitely. They work with the ethic that used to be quintessential America, where it was American made. Well, they make the best in the world. And I'm going to who makes the best in the world when it comes to my chargers. Patriot makes a real good one too, and they're made in New Zealand. So anyway, you can take those chargers, you can take those ground fields, you can put them in multiple locations, but you don't have to, because a lot of times people, all they have is AC chargers. Well, going back to Joel Salatin, what does he run his pigs on? Car batteries. That's direct current. That's DC. And then he'll take his batteries in when it looks like it's going down. He'll take them back, go charge them up. Well, I'll add one to that because I'm an electrician and Joel ain't. I'm going to say, get you a big enough solar array with a diode attached to it to where I never got to pull that thing up. I pull it up maybe once a year to go, or even go out there and, add some water to the batteries. So that's the only thing I would add to that. But once again, Joel to the rescue. But if all you have is AC power and you don't have the benefit of going out there, putting it in multiple locations, well, you can make a ground field right there where 1, 2, depending on how many ground rods you want to put in there, put number 6 soft drawn copper between it. You can exothermically weld it with a thing called CAD weld, or you can do it mechanically. Still works out adequately, and that's usually enough.
And I'd heard, you'll hear Nick Ferguson say, just run AC. If you're running enough joules, you don't have to worry about cutting your fence line back, because every time the plant touches the fence, it'll zap it and smoke it, and it'll self-prune that shit.
That's exactly what I do.
The guy asked also, are T-posts not enough to ground? I would think the answer is no, because they're mostly coated, and they're probably not nearly as conductive as copper.
Exactly. So a lot of the ground rods, everything you're going to find is copper clad, and then you're going to find galvanized. Either one of them, I think, works great. Yeah, if you got a rusted out T-post, but then it ain't going to be a T-post for much longer. So what good is your ground conductivity if it's going to be gone in a year or two? So you're absolutely right, John. I mean, honestly, I've actually done I didn't do a YouTube video, but I'm going to tell people about this, because we have such a litigious society these days. They got to be really careful. Check this out. I can go take you on the back of my house right now, and I can show you where the ground is going to my AC charger that I got going to the pigs. You want to know where it's going? It's into the ground on the actual receptacle that the charger is plugged into. You know why I know that's adequate? And by the way, wink, wink, I don't recommend anybody do this, because as a journeyman IBEW electrician, I can't tell you this, but every ground in your house, if it's sufficient, is going back to a ground rod. So if I'm on AC power and my ground is good there, I know it's going back to a panel. I know at that panel it's bonded to the ground. You ain't going to find a better ground. So you only got 2 prongs on your fence charger. Well, you got that leftover little round one there. Where do you think I put my green? Where do you think I put the ground? I put it right there because that means I don't have to waste money driving another ground rod when I fully know. Now, legally, I can't tell you this. You know what else you can use? An old building. John, probably at a building like yours, maybe in one of yours, Nicole, you got water pipes coming in there. And if it's an old enough house, it's probably a metal water pipe, probably even copper. You can even ground that to the copper going into your house. And you're not going to get a better ground than that. Even if it's a metal pipe event. Now, if it's PEX, forget about it. Don't even think. That's not going to ground anything. But your best earth ground is probably going to be that copper coming into the house. These are all electricians and plumbing tricks that you're not necessarily going to know unless you've been in the electrical trade as long as I have. So, yeah, those are some pretty cool ways to ground. I do not, for anybody out there that looks to do them, I do not endorse any of the stuff I do for other people to do. So that's
do as I say, not as I do.
That's right. That's technically you better go out and drive a ground rod, but personally, I'm using that little spare prong that's already there at my AC charger.
All right. Well, we're closing in on 3 hours, guys. Anything you want to talk about before we say goodbye? Billy, you get to go first this time.
Well, as always, y'all, this is what I'm talking about. The reason why this thing goes this long, the reason why I went practically this long with Jack Spearco, the reason why all these interviews go this long, at least in my judgment, is because, at least for me, I wish that I was in closer. Look, y'all, sorry, I don't mean to go all broke back on you right now, but I wish I was close enough to hug you. Okay, maybe not with Nicole so much, but with John. So, the point being is that, like I said before, the conversation is the first thing I look for and the hardest thing to find. I'm not going to find it when I go to Lowe's, ain't going to find it when I go to the grocery store, but I find it in this community that I'm now part of, and I love it. And all those people that come to these events, you're part of it too. Life Done Free, Tag, he's going to be at the next one. Tactical Redneck, He's here. He's going to be at the next one. He's always there. He's one of those unsung heroes that you spend little pieces of time with. And then William, on the way home, he says, man, Tactical said this to me, man. It was extraordinarily poignant. He doesn't talk all the time, but there's times when he speaks and it's so fulfilling that you're like, man, I'm just glad I was here to hear this. It's why these things go so long. Because, yeah, I get plenty of fulfillment from my family, but we also need it outside of that. So sorry that I know I didn't waste your time, because I don't think you wasted your time hanging out with me. It's just next time we do it, let's make sure we do it in person. Let's try to do everything we can. Even though we're all very busy, I will dump everything I have to be in the room with the 2 people that are here. So if I have to do it virtually, and I have to do it virtually with all of you out there, it's the best I can do, and I feel great having done it.
All right, John, I'm going to let you wrap up, so I'll go next.
Go ahead.
If you are here there are 3 channels where we are streaming this right now. We are streaming it at Special Operations Equipment, Permapastures Farm, and Living Free in Tennessee. And we've all got our own ecosystem. If you want to get up in the morning and discover why you should not be making excuses about why you're not doing your shit, go to John's channel. If you want to see a bunch of cool permaculture videos, right after the swale class, he released this video spewing out in like 2 minutes more information about swales as succinctly as a person could do it that I've ever seen. Definitely head over to Special Operations Equipment and follow that. He does a live stream every night, pretty much around 9 o'clock. And the discussion is guided by the comments. It's a great live stream. Billy's channel, you learn a lot about tactics, but he's also philosophically, obviously very well read and thought out. He knows how to practice what he talks about. That's Permaculture's farm. If you want to hear about homesteading stuff and small business startup things, follow Living Free in Tennessee. Follow all of them, though. That helps us interconnect with each other. Somebody said the comments really had a symbiosis for this live stream, where it was really gelling. The more of us who get into everybody else's channels and start talking like this, we develop that symbiosis, those relationships digitally. And then when we're in person, there are barriers that are gone out of the chute. So that's what I wanted to say today. And I'm going to hand it over to John to close.
So with the comments, right? When you guys come on the live feeds and comment, we have a conversation and we kind of get to know each other. I have a lot of people that come from all over the world that come here and they'll walk in my shop. If you walk in the shop, you're viewed as a customer, not somebody I interact with on the internet, right? When you walk in here and go, hey, I see your live feeds all the time, we're going to have a very, very different interaction. Like, you might not even see me if you come through the door and you're not like, hey man, I watch your live feeds. Then we're going to have a very different conversation. And because we kind of know each other from these videos, that's going to guide that conversation. When you come here, I will take you anywhere you want to go, and I will show you the things that I had on a video, right? There's proof, there's evidence. And that's the beauty of this, right? Because if you walk in here and you're kind of shy and you don't tell me, like, I think that everybody that comes here should have to wear a badge, a tag that has your internet name on it, not your, because they'll walk in and be like, hey, I'm Bob. There's 1,000 Bobs, right? I don't know what conversation to have with you. So if you come here, tell me what you want to talk about, and we will talk about those things. On the other side of this wall is a factory, and we make nylon tactical gear, right? We make lifestyle stuff. We do all the shirts that you see. We do patches and stickers. This particular one says, don't monkeypox me, bro. And we just kind of do fun stuff. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. I have a live feed. A lot of people like what I say. I promise you at some point I will say something you disagree with. But at the end of the day, you'll know exactly what I thought. You might not agree with it. You might stop watching. That's okay. What pays the bills is SOE, Special Operations Equipment. We make nylon tactical gear. If there's good guys in the world killing bad guys, my kit is with them. That's the meat and potatoes. That's how we kind of started this stuff. So join, be part of what we're doing. If, like, I don't need that tactical gear, that's okay. We don't care where you come from. We're all here for a common interest. Come be part of what we're doing. And everybody I come in contact with, I'm going to learn something from them. And I hope you learn something from us, right? Tell us what it is you need from us so that we can do that for you.
Hey, and I got to say this real quick, Nicole, before we sign off, honestly, regarding John's stuff, not only do we wear a lot of SOE shirts out here, we're also customers. And honestly, one of my everyday carry things, I always carry 2 knives. I carry a Leatherman, and I always carry a Leatherman, and I always carry just a straight up knife, okay? Without a doubt, always on my hip right next to my whip. Been that way for years. Do you have any idea how many pouches I've been through? Man, I was going to get up here, and I guess I'll have to halfway disrobe. But this is a true story, y'all. Usually I wear these things out. Michelle, it drives her crazy. She would buy a stack of them. I use ammo pouches as my, for my everyday carry. Honestly, these ones I bought from John, I guarantee. See, this isn't by accident. I literally wear it right here. And each one, I got Velcro that actually works. Bam. Without even looking at it, I know, bam, there's my knife. And then in the next one, I got it right here. I got my Leatherman. So I didn't just, look, I didn't get dressed up for the show. The point being is that for the first time ever, until I got this, the last time I was there at SOE, do you have any idea how many of these I went through buying them off the internet from companies that were just on Amazon or some of these other places? First time ever. Usually the Velcro and I've been doing this for years. Do you know? I usually wear those out at best in 2 weeks. And Michelle would be furious. She's like, what are you doing with these? I'm like, dude, I'm not doing anything. I've had this thing a month probably so far, and it looks as brand new and I got 2 of them back here. So really, I don't know what you're putting in this stuff. I don't know if it was forged in the heart of a dying star or whether it's just really awesome nylon. I don't know what you're doing there, but the Velcro, everything about it. And or here's the other thing I get. It falls off your freaking belt loop. That's the thing I hate more than anything. I'm sitting there, I got, $100 Leatherman that's lost because out doing my work or whatever, I snagged on something and it fell off. This thing, John, you got fantastic equipment. And folks, you really, look, you can go ahead and keep buying that cheap crap like I've been for years. I would have been better off spending good money to buy the good stuff the first time than spending 10 times the money buying inferior junk off the shelf at Walmart, Target, or whatever place online. So, yeah, buy stuff.
Let me say two things. I've been doing this 35 years. We just do the same thing today that I did 35 years ago. And if I was talking to a competitor, I would just tell them, we're not the same, bro. We're not the same. And if you want to stop me, you will have to fucking kill me. Like we're not the same. The stuff we make and what they make, it's not the same animal. I also want to say something that's been in my head since Saturday. We were talking about something and I said, you can do any fucking thing you want to do. You just need to keep that in your head, right? And that came back up yesterday when Testimona posted that video clip right at the end. And I said, you can do anything you want to do. And when I said that to somebody and William said, I just asked myself for permission and I gave myself permission. And he said that, and that has come up several times in conversation. I didn't ask permission. I asked myself for permission and I said, yes, you have permission. You can literally do anything you want to do. And I just wanted you to hear that. That came from your son.
Awesome.
What a joy.
Guys, we'll see you next week.